Okay, starting in 3, 2, 1. And it looks like we're live. Greetings and salutations. I'm Unthoth Neverborn, the abyss that slumbers, and you are listening to Eldritch Rants, the show that dares to ask the question if the average polar bear has lost over 100 pounds in the past 20 years. Who is taking care of the responsibility of all the body shaming of these polar bears? The answers to this question and many more will be answered by our panel of experts, which is right now down to Fedabub92, who is our resident expert on kiwi birds. I don't understand how that's going to be relevant to any of our topics, but that's his specialty. Any rate, moving on to our first topic, I think before we get into any of the news, which is kind of the usual drivel, we thought we might rant a bit about the state of affairs at YouTube. I believe you got a message, Feta.
Yeah, it's at it again. Anybody who follows the, I guess, are more of our niche of YouTube knows that it hits anybody who has an opinion hard. Many of the big channels have been kind of shadow banned to where people like myself, if you're not subscribed to it, it's really hard to find their channels. I've even found difficulty kind of connecting to some of our videos, like between this group here. I've noticed that it's not just affecting people like us, it's been affecting other content outside of political based. Anyone that covers things like horror or graphic things, or even they cover sad topics like disaster or terrorism, even from a news standpoint, have been hit. And I've seen it go from a wide range of ideologies and positions, and even people that stay kind of neutral from politics. If they're just reporting on things, they get hit by it too. It's been a mass demonetization and a mass kind of shadow ban, pulling you out of the algorithm, which I think hurts everyone in the long run, and it's sad. Oh, agreed. Yeah. Yeah. That's the exact same boat I'm in. VidMe? Yeah, it's iffy there, but I don't know how much longer it's gonna last. It seems like it will, but with so many people going to like Facebook to do live streams of blogs and such, I could see that going away soon. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll fill up the dead space then with that. Another thing too, like I said, it doesn't just affect that. This is something that's been going on for a long time. YouTube's been working at it. One thing they've been doing is anytime you mention a sort of disaster or tragedy, YouTube will shadow ban and will demonetize. So it pulls you out of the algorithm and you don't make any money off of it. Now, for people like us who are smaller time or who just do this out of our own enjoyment of this hobby, it's not a big deal when it comes to the money part. However, larger channels that make money off of it do. And it, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, once that happens, YouTube's gonna die. It's gonna fizzle. It's gonna become the MySpace of video platform. Hmm. Oh yeah, that's why I kind of stopped reading comics from them. I'm a big Marvel fan. Yeah, it's becoming harder and harder to buy into to getting more of their comics, and they're not listening either. Most that's Hollywood, and that's those major entertainment companies. But this is what I think it is. I think it's not so much that they're so greedy, but I think they've lost the desire to take risks. It's like that greed has made it to where not only do they're afraid to put a little money out to get a bigger pile back. They just want to keep that pile close and keep that pile close and keep that pile close. They don't ever want to push out and get a big return anymore,
Oh well,
and that's what's fucking them.
that's an interesting theory. I never thought of it that way. That they've become so greedy that they will not take any chances anymore. They won't risk losing anything. They become so greedy, and that's why they keep making these incredibly short-sighted and stupid decisions because for some reason they believe this social justice crap. I mean, they believe that everybody thinks this way when it's probably like, if anything, 2-3% of the population, which I believe coincides with the percentage of the population that is, legally insane.
Whether they're related, we're not sure, but we're looking into it.
No, it's the as far as I'm concerned, it's the only explanation. I mean,
Nah.
we've got some truly insane stuff that we've had recently. I don't have the article. I didn't find it, but I read it before and then I lost it. Or it might be in the pile here. I'm not sure. A principal for a school told their students not to chant USA because you might offend somebody. Who are you going to offend?
That's why I never get that, because a lot of even illegal immigrants that are here because they don't want to be where they are and they want to be in the U.S. So I'm like, how are you going to offend them?
Yeah, most legal immigrants want to be American because being American is awesome. And for some reason, all of these leftist nut jobs are like, America's awful. Well, if it's so awful, why is everybody flooding here?
Exactly.
Why is every other country hemorrhaging populations and they are clamoring to beat down our door, to risk life and limb, crawling through sewers, through deserts, swimming rivers to get their asses here? It's because every place else sucks worse, but they're so completely consumed with their own self-loathing and hatred. Mm-hmm. And the big thing, you know, I always want to say to these guys is, you make the world in your own image. Your world is in your image. I used to be filled with so much hate, and my world was a very hate-filled place. And it wasn't just my perception. I created it. I was a bill collector, and I knew how to create hate. But as soon as I adjusted my own attitude and I started being positive and upbeat about things and actually like going, hey, maybe things are good. I've got a good world. I'm happy all the time. I'm very rarely actually stressed. I mean, bad things happen, but it's very rarely where I'll find myself for like days on end, you know, getting an ulcer. And it's all because I think things are good. I think that things are great here, and I think America's a great place, and I think America's full of great people. And even these idiots are great Americans if they just let themselves be. But if they were ever in charge, they would turn America into a reflection of themselves. And they are basically a hate-filled bunch of bigots. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. In their attempts to stop racism, they have become the bigots. At any rate, I think we've exhausted this topic. Is there anything else you want to rant about?
No, I'm happy to move on to the next one.
All right, I'm going to get to some. We'll start with something lighthearted. 11-year-old boy gets lawn mowing gig at the White House. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, a little bit of it. Woohoo! I hope.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to it other than, you know, the president is a good old-fashioned PR. And you want to know something, honestly, deep down under it all? I think he's doing this just to piss off the press. I really do. Because there's this great quote. What do you want to be when you grow up, boy? And he goes, a Navy SEAL. And Trump goes, well, he'll make it. I mean, come on now. This is like so 1950s mom and apple pie. There must be like leftists like fuming, literally boiling in their own skin over this.
Yeah, that's true. Luckily, I don't know. I didn't check Facebook today, so luckily I didn't see any of it. I have a lot of really far left friends. A lot of far right friends too, but I took this as amazing. Yeah, it kind of it brings back some of the good from those times, because we look back at those times all the time, especially from the more, and I don't use necessarily left and right. I'd say progressive or regressive is a word I like to use, but
yeah, that's more accurate. You're correct.
But they look back as that in such a negative light on everything, and there are still some good. This is the good old-fashioned work and make it yourself mentality. This is an 11-year-old going out to make money, doing some harder work. You see people who are adults doing this for a living and can make good money doing it if they own their own business. It's that good hardworking mentality, the good American dream mentality, that it's nice to see that given a little bit of light shown on it by the president, instead of just negativity or anything. And I know that there are going to be people who are pissed off about it, especially the Navy SEAL comment, but it's like, he obviously wants to work hard and he has big aspirations. I'm glad to see the president supporting that. So
yeah, I hope that none of this backlash comes to this kid, but honestly, that's how cynical I'm at this point, where I'm worried about him. That's how far I think we've dropped, where he's probably right now in the crosshairs of some people. And I don't think they're going to let this go. I hope nothing bad happens to him. And I know that sounds like, oh, well, who would hurt an 8-year-old kid who mows lawns? Have you looked at Antifa lately? And if you're Antifa and you're listening to this, have you looked at yourself lately? Seriously, the very fact that I even consider you capable of attacking an 8-year-old boy means you guys have really gone over the edge. So I think this is great. I love it. But honestly, I think cynically, he did this just to mock every regressive on the planet. And power to him. Power to him. I think this is great.
Yeah.
Any other comments on this?
No, I mean, I guess to mention the point what you brought up is, it used to be when it comes to the president doing stuff like this, there was always respect no matter what, because it was the office of the president, whether you like the guy or not. But now, especially with Obama and Trump, it seems more just hating the person rather than respecting the position.
Yeah,
that's it on that.
I'm hoping things are going to start swinging back the next way, but I don't think we're going to see any real change until 2018. In 2018, and I'm going to say this every day until the 2018 midterms, the Democrats are going to get pasted. It's the math is there unless a miracle occurs. And I think once that happens, you will finally see this end. All this social justice nonsense will finally end, because in 2018, I think that is what is going to break their spirit completely. But who knows? Maybe there'll be a big rally, but I'm not seeing it because the more I watch it, the more they hemorrhage members and the more radical insane the core group gets. So anyway, moving on. I don't know about anybody else, but I've been knocking around on Nightmind's Discord. Bunch of cool people over there, but it got me looking into some older stuff. And then we came up with, I don't know if you remember the Slender Man murders.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the judge ordered the Slender Man jury to keep working. Apparently, they came up with a hung jury, and then the judge said, nope, keep at it and figure out whether he's guilty or innocent. I mean, this has been going on since 2014. And these 3 kids were 12 at the time. So we're looking at like 3 years later, and they're trying to decide whether or not to prosecute then 12-year-olds, now 15-year-old children.
Whatever happened to speedy and fair trial?
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, so cute. You so cute. You so cute. No, seriously though. Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. It's mostly because the system is so overwhelmed. I'm going to tell you what it is, though. I mean, I've ranted on this before. We're going to rant about it again. We have taken away humanity from our judicial system. We don't allow our judges to be human anymore. They are not allowed to make their own choices. They're not allowed to make their own decisions. We have legislated the results to the point where they pretty much are computers. In my opinion, the humanity in the judicial system died in 1995 when a 14-year-old boy was raped by a 30-year-old woman. She got pregnant, sued him for child support, and won. And the judge said, this is obscene. This is wrong. This shouldn't happen. No rape victim should be required to pay child support to the rapist, but the law is clear. The moment that the law takes precedence over humanity, we no longer have humanity in our law. And it isn't just the judges, it's our cops. When you start putting cameras on them, they shoot more people. And people go, oh, the cops think they can get away with it more. No, I went and asked them. And the cops that I talked to all said the same thing, all 3 of them. When you put the cameras on us, we have to follow the rules exactly. And there are a lot of times when we are required to draw our gun. And when you draw a gun, you shoot it more. When we have the option, we'll not pull our gun because if we don't think we have to, because we don't want to kill people. But you put a camera on us, we are required by the rules to pull that gun, and more people are going to get shot. It's not that they think they can get away with it more. It's not because cops think, oh, now I got a camera so I can justify murdering somebody. And I can't believe anybody ever even suggested that. But that was HuffPost. What do you expect?
Yeah, they're no longer legit.
But we've taken away their right to decide not to shoot somebody. Oh, this action occurs, you must pull your gun. Well, I understand that from a logistical point of view, it might be a good suggestion, but it shouldn't be required. The cop should have the final decision as to whether or not that gun leaves his holster, but they don't. They don't have the choice. They don't have the choice when it stays in, and they don't have the choice when it gets pulled. Yeah. So
sorry.
Go ahead.
They say when you're talking about that point, people don't understand. You say that how, well, yeah, now they have to follow that. Like, well, no, they can't. They can choose not to. It's like, no, it comes down to illegal, and I guess you could say.
Do you want to keep your job? Do you want to
Yeah,
keep
the
your job?
logistics side.
Then you pull your gun when you're supposed to. And let me assure you, working for New York State myself, I know that there are rules. There's a little wiggle room in some places, but I know most of there's crazy stuff I have to do. Where you go, why are you doing this crazy thing? And I go, because the rules say I must do this crazy thing. And I'm going to do this crazy thing because I want to keep my job. And if you think I would get fired over this crazy thing, I wouldn't. No, you're wrong. I would get fired over this crazy thing. I don't want to get into the details of crazy things because there's so many, but that's how it is. When you work for the government, that's how it is. And every employee, every judge, every officer, we all work for the government and we are bound by these rules, but we have no humanity. And so that's why we get situations like this where you have 3 12-year-olds who are they should have just been sent off to a criminally insane mental ward and treated. There shouldn't even be it shouldn't even get this far, but it has. So anyway, do you have anything to say?
No, you hit it on the head there.
Alrighty. Hold on one sec here. Okay, this is the same article twice.
Slender Man.
Speaking of insane rulings, we have Berlin court upholds a man's right to break wind in public.
Sorry.
Yep. I'm sorry, but I'm going to... There's so many different articles. I'll sum it up for you. A guy got fined 900 euros for farting in front of a female officer twice. And so he fought it, and he won. So we have finally approved in Germany the right to fart. But the fact of the matter is I'm sorry, but it's just farting. You know, how did he even get fined? You know, that people wonder about the EU and Germany, and I'm sorry, but they are the most, they've turned back into the Nazis. They have. They're trying to fight racism and xenophobia, and they have become the very monsters that they fight. It's bizarre. And yet at the same time, they're trying to destroy their own country. What? They're like stumbling over themselves to do it. And the weird thing is that like they were saying, we're going to fine the Polish for not taking enough refugees. Oh, the 1.4 million refugees they took from the Ukraine wasn't enough. Oh, they need to take more than that. They've got more refugees than you do. Oh, no, but that's not enough. It's because it's not the right refugees. And then Poland turned around and said, well, you owe us $1 trillion for World War II. And then Germany said, you guys already turned that down. Yeah, when we were occupied by the Russians in 1953, we told you didn't owe us any money. But, you know, that's Germany for you. They're hypocrites. They're total hypocrites. They want everybody else they don't even believe in their own social justice bullshit. It's just an excuse. So, any thoughts? I'm sorry, you cut out for a second there.
Sorry.
Can you hear me? You're flickering, but the sound is coming and going.
Oh, no. Damn it.
Oh, there. You're coming back. You're coming back.
I'm coming back?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Please excuse the technical difficulty. My internet may have just decided to go crazy. But what I was saying about Germany is that it almost seems like having sort of an inverse.
And we lose them entirely.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the technical difficulties. It almost seems that with Germany, they're having kind of an inverse Reich. How the Nazis were pushing a kind of a genetic ideal, but mostly a national ethnic ideal. Now they're doing the reverse, as if the ethnicity of Germany is almost should be disdained, and this epic diversity should be brought forth. And these ideas, you know, it's kind of like
oh no, that's no. I see what you're talking about. They're like
it's like ethnomasochism.
They have not changed being genetic racists at all. They're still just as genetically racist as they've always been. However, now they have labeled themselves as the unclean. And as such, because they hate the unclean, they must destroy themselves. Weird. Like, they never did anything about the racism. They just changed what they defined as something that needs to be hated.
Yeah. It's like as if you were to have like an antivirus bot in your computer, and it always looks for viruses. And you never change that it looks for viruses. And at first it was seeking out malware and such, but then you ended up changing in your coding of it the definition of virus to say your hard drive. Now it's attacking your hard drive. That's the problem. It goes back to the whole with Antifa and everything else of becoming the very thing you want to destroy. You're not changing your methods and tactics. You're just redefining things. And now,
I believe the old saying is, you cannot use the tools of evil for good ends.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but that's spot on. That is very insightful. But I think you're right. I don't think anything in their tactics have changed in Germany at all. They're exactly the same way they've always been. They just said, well, we'll just redefine what evil is. And they redefined it as themselves, saying that'll fix everything. And instead of fixing everything, it just created basically like an autoimmune disease that's attacking itself.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, they've got like mimetic leukemia.
Yeah, it's social AIDS. I don't know what you want to call it, but we have that too. It's
mimetic AIDS. It's mimetic AIDS.
Yeah, exactly. It's what social justice the social justice mentality, intersectionality has become. It's a political autoimmune disorder essentially.
That is a brilliant insight. I've got to write that one down. I'm going to be stealing that. I'm going to use that for a while.
That's fine. Hey, it's on this stream. It's on your channel. Perfect.
Anyway, moving on. Defiant North Korea leader says he will complete nuke program, which kind of makes me think, wait a minute, you didn't have it finished in the first place? I mean, you did blow up a hydrogen bomb. And we're pretty sure about that, considering 8 minutes after you detonated it, an entire mountain collapsed. So, by the way, radiation's still leaking out of that area. So, good job there, North Korea. I mean, I've got more on this later to talk about. I just wanted to bring this up here that this guy does not seem like to catch a clue. Like, if he backed down right now and just said, you know what, I'm just going to chill, we would totally forget about you. And you could quietly do whatever crazy thing you wanted to do. We would leave you alone as long as you stop poking everybody else. But he seems obsessed with being in the center of attention. I don't understand what his end game is.
Well, it's like the guy that has no cards, but is just betting big the whole time and going all in. You know, it's like that.
It's worked up until now. That
we're gonna call him on it.
Yeah, I fear when we call him on it. The solution is, of course, China. Like, China could end this tomorrow. All China has to do is say, we're going to stop giving you food. We're going to stop taking your goods. We're going to say, we shut down the border and we're done. And, you know, the crazy thing is, we would give China North Korea if we could. If we said, look, why don't you just sneak into their country? You know, we'll make a lot of noise over here. You say you're moving in your troops to protect them. And then you shoot Kim Jong-un in the back of the head and take over the place. Mm-hmm. And then we'll just walk away. We're good with that. You know, if you don't want a unified North and South Korea, that's fine. But, you know, let's not have this loose nuke guy. But for some reason, they seem to think there's an advantage to having him run around like a madman. So I think they may regret that if North Korea turns into a sheet of glass. But we'll see what happens.
Well, I could see some advantage, but at the same time, it's kind of flipping on itself. I could see North Korea being like this, being somewhat of a nuclear deterrent. And it's kind of like, if we, they're a potential enemy. If we strike them, then it starts an issue with China. But at the same time, I'm just kind of like, well, it's creating a needless middleman. Yeah, why not just take out the lunatic who's going to cause somebody problems, eventually yourself or your allies, and then just live peacefully. With you can still have the divided Korea, but there's going to be less shit, and now China has more place to put its infinitely growing population.
Yeah, the problem is that at this point, I don't trust him to not nuke. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody does, because when your propaganda includes "I don't shit," I never have taken a crap. Everything I eat just gets absorbed into my body. I mean, it's like, wow, one of your followers is going to believe that, and they're going to think that you can stop nuclear missiles with your mind, and all it needs is like one idiot to say, "For our God," and like launch a missile.
Oh yeah, I could see that too. I mean, he's probably not being so self-absorbed. He's probably not against having military personnel and military officers who do talk to him and treat him as a god. And all it takes is, for one of them to get high enough, to have enough access, enough clearance to be able to be in charge of that. Yeah.
I mean, what was that movie? How Dr. Strangelove, where that one guy flipped out and he was in charge of a military base and sent off, some military nuke bombers, and the whole movie was just scrambling to try to stop the nukes from dropping. That's all it takes. All it takes is one fanatic with a bunch of other fanatics, because you're training your soldiers to be fanatics. All of his soldiers are brainwashed. And all it takes is one soldier to say, "Now you will load the nuke onto this boat and sail it over to America and blow it up. And you will be reincarnated as angels." I mean, they believe it too. So
yeah, I mean, it's not hard to believe stuff. I mean, you want an example? This could maybe lead into the next topic. You want an example? Look at Islam. Extreme Islam's that way.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, how many people are willing to blow themselves up? It's just another version of religion, except it's around a man who's actually alive.
Mm-hmm. What is it? If you blindly follow a man who's alive, it's a cult. But if they're dead, it's a religion.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, it's scary.
Right. Okay, skipping on to the terror attack then, since it's related. I don't think anybody was actually killed in this one, but I believe we had 28 injured or something around there. Parsons Green on Friday in London. Yeah, up to news on this, because to be honest, I almost missed it. I didn't even hear about it on the local news. I didn't hear about it on NPR. I didn't hear about it at all. But I think that's because nobody actually got killed. But it's just, I'm sitting here and going, wow, have we become that jaded? Where it's like, oh, it was a terrorist attack where nobody was killed. Not even worth getting on the, on the back burner. You there? Or did we lose you again? Oh, well.
Can you hear me?
Oh, no, I can, yeah. Did you hear anything I said?
Okay. Yeah, luckily I'm still able to catch everything. It just decides to boot me out for a minute. So,
any thoughts on the London almost killings?
Yeah, I mean, I did end up hearing a little bit about it. But it was just brief and passing. Kind of one of my coworkers who keeps up on it was like, "Hey, did you hear about that?" I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And
I wish we could have gotten Mr. Gurr on.
Yeah, I wanted to hear his opinion on this too, because this is a little bit closer to home for him. But yeah, just I guess, unfortunately, another day in Europe.
Yeah, Sadiq Khan came out saying it was an attempt by evil and cowardly individuals. And that's it. That's it.
Yeah. At least it's the truth. I mean,
yeah, but it's like, yeah, and we're going to keep calm and carry on. It's it's a nation where if you complain about Islamic terrorism, you're a hate group and you're dangerous. We need to worry about you. But actual people who murder actual terrorists, we don't worry about those guys. The actual murders don't worry about, but the people who say words that might be mean, those guys are a hate group. Dear God, it's insane. I don't understand how they're that backwards, but I Again, as you said, it's like mimetic leukemia.
Well, that too, and it's I think it comes down to another thing. It's kind of to relate back to the concept of how the extremely wealthy in the entertainment business have become so greedy that they don't want to risk anything. I feel that we in all these first world Western countries have become so accustomed to comfort, and so kind of like that we're so focused on our own little area and worried about the little things, like, oh, that's kind of ugly. The aesthetics of, oh, someone said something mean to someone said something bad about Islam, to where we chastise that, but we're still so, not, I wouldn't say desensitized, but almost kind of blind to the reality of people are being murdered by a bunch of people who follow a religion that suggests they should kill us. That's a big problem, and I feel like they feel that way about North Korea, a few other things, but Islam being one of them. And obviously, too, you have the mindset of the intersectionality of, well, yeah, it's a bunch of people trying to kill us, and a lot of them, me being a part of the atheist community, and I kind of got into everything when the atheist community broke in half between the smart people and those with political leukemia. But these people can't seem to grasp that just because someone who did something bad would fall under a minority doesn't mean that what they did isn't bad. And they also seem to throw all of that kind of atheist skepticism, and just any skepticism. Skepticism isn't universal to atheists. Everybody has it, or at least I like to think everybody's capable of it.
I wish there was more of it, I guess, is your point. But there's a lot of people who aren't being skeptic who should be.
Yeah. But they throw it out the window because of that. And then it just becomes commonplace now that they don't care. They don't want to really do anything about it. And they don't want to have any spines. Like, this is one reason, too, why Trump kind of rubbed a lot of people's feathers the wrong way, but also pet a lot of people's feathers the right way. Because whether people love him or hate him, I'm kind of lukewarm. I haven't really liked any president that's been around since I've been alive. But he's at least got the balls to make a statement and start a plan. And if this happened in the U.S., he'd come out with a statement with, respect to the condolences of the families. And he'd come out with some sort of a plan, even if it was a half-assed one. You don't have that anymore.
You know what's weird? Have we had a Muslim terror attack in America since he took office?
Not one that I've seen on the news.
I mean, we've had Antifa doing all sorts of terrorist bullshit, but I don't think I've seen any Muslims.
We've had like one or two that have like maybe stabbed a couple people, but they're not like, nothing like this. Nothing like the San Bernardino shooting or the Pulse nightclub or whatever. Nothing like that. Small little things that may not even be related to. It could just be a stabbing or a shooting that happened, and it happened to be a Muslim. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it may not have actually been that big a deal. I mean, or an organized deal, as you were.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think unfortunately, we're going to see if time will tell. And I believe time will show that Donald Trump has got the right attitude. I mean, he's not the best president ever. I've got some problems with him. But the things that he is doing, I'm like, you know what? I can give up the few things I got a problem with him for the things he's doing right. That's my attitude. You're doing enough right that I'm happy with you overall. You're definitely better than Hillary Clinton, who wanted to go to war with Russia.
Yeah, that scared me. That little bit before the election of like the Russian hacking, and I was like, oh my gosh, I hope she doesn't become president, because I don't want to be drafted to fight Putin. I'm sorry.
The crazy thing is from what I deal with a lot of, well, I don't want to call them Russian hackers, just people who like are pretty good at cracking code and stuff. And I talk with them every once in a while because they've got Russians have the best programs. They do. They break the best programs. And I was talking with a couple of them before, and they were terrified of Hillary. They were terrified of her. And when I said, oh, well, Putin isn't standing up to her. Putin totally believes she's going to win and is sucking up to her. And they believe that even with that, she's still going to attack. Like, they were terrified of her. They hated her. They hated her. I often suspected if there was a hack from Russia, it was a bunch of those guys getting together saying, we got to take down Hillary. Because from what they told me, Putin was totally sucking up to her because he didn't believe Trump had a hope in hell of winning. Nobody did. Like, it took them all by surprise. And wouldn't surprise me if, like, they go, oh, Trump was helping. No, Putin was helping Trump. No, I don't think so. I don't think from the least. I thought he was trying to help Hillary, to be honest. And then as soon as Hillary lost, he said, Hillary, go screw yourself. Hey, Trump, best friend, old buddy, old pal, old guy. I love the hairstyle. It's better than mine. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yeah, of course.
Something a little silly here. Florida men caught stealing power pole strapped to their SUV in the wake of Hurricane Irma. They stole a power pole in order to get the rare metals in the transformer, blah, blah, blah. And they were going to go and recycle the whole thing.
What were they gonna,
I mean, it's almost $2,500 worth of raw materials. So they strapped it to the roof and started driving off. And you may wonder why the residents in Florida don't have power. Maybe it's because somebody's stealing your utility poles and recycling them for the aluminum. Only in Florida. Florida man.
I'm just imagining. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm imagining someone working at a recycling center and someone just bringing in a fucking 30-foot pole. It's like, I'd like to get this for money. Oh, shit.
No, I want to see that. No, they come in with like black trench coats going, hey. Oh, Gwendy, how's it going? You're muted. You're muted and your earphones are off by the eye. Yep, you get yourself organized. Let us know when you're here. We skipped over the Slender Man conversation if you're listening. At any rate, yeah. Like I imagine these like somebody with a trench coat going into a recycling place going, hey, you know what I got over here? I got me an aluminum pole. Like, where do you find somebody to like? Is there a black market for power poles? I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Oh my god.
Oh, it's like I'm just imagining some rednecks just stealing it, just be like, "That's gonna look good in my trailer. My wife can dance on it."
Oh well, if you I don't know if you downloaded the zip file, but if you look up the actual article, they're both shirtless.
Yeah,
they were driving around without shirts, man. They were so redneck.
When you brought it up, I almost grabbed my guitar and played the Deliverance. I was just like, no, I can't do that.
Well, they make somebody certainly squeal like a pig with that pole on top of their SUV. My God, that is just... Oh, you know the part that I love? This is the part that's just awesome. They took the time to tie a little flag to the end of the pole for safety concerns as they're driving down. You know, people tie little flags to the things sticking out of the back of their cars. They've got it on the back of the pole. It's like, thank you for thinking of your fellow drivers, sir.
I can see that too. Just like, what's wrong with it, officer? I tied a little orange flappy thingy on the back. Make sure no one's running into it.
We're kind of wondering, where did you get the pole? Oh, I found it. It was in my yard. And, yeah, I'm just returning it. Yep. Oh, God. I mean, what were you thinking? Like, were you thinking? I don't know. I just love this. I love Florida Man. Florida Man is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Florida Man.
Moving on. Yeah, I just want to briefly touch on this one. Harvey is probably going to cost about $19 billion. That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. And apparently we got over half of the houses don't have flood insurance. It actually is making me think of buying flood insurance. I don't need it where I am, but I'm saying to myself, it would be impossible for me to get flooding where my house is. I'm on top of a hill. And then I hear about this and I'm like, you know what? How much extra is it a day to get flood insurance in a place where you don't get flooded? Because these guys were like, we only get flooded once every 1,000 years. Well, 1,000 years showed up real soon. Any notes on this? I just wanted to bring it up as a topic.
Not you, but live close to the river. We've been in a drought for a long time. We don't need it, and of course, after we got it, uh, major rainstorm that so yeah, it.
Gotcha. Now, I just wanted to bring it up as a mention here. I mean, it's kind of like the final scorecard: $19 billion in damages, about 70 dead.
That's the big one. 70 dead.
Well, I mean, when a hurricane runs over you, stops, and then backs up over you, you'd know nature had a hard on for getting your life out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've never seen that before. I've never seen a hurricane back up over you before, but it did. Oh, I mean, it really wasn't a hurricane problem. It was a flooding problem. I mean, when you get 5 feet of water in like 2 days, I've seen 6 feet of snow, and snow's at least got some air in it. 5 feet of water. I don't want to even imagine what that does. At any rate, shall we move on to the wonderful land of Iceland?
Sure.
Iceland's center-right government collapses amid pedophile scandal. Yeah, apparently after a small coalition member quit and the county's prime minister called for a new election as soon as possible because of, well, pedophilia. The weird thing that I want to bring this up is that I don't know if you pay attention to the alt-right at all, but they were like talking about we need an ethno-state, we need an ethno-state. And the big talk about was, well, what about Iceland? It's like 93% white. Why didn't you guys all go there? And then this came up on my news feed, and I'm like, ooh, okay, well, maybe that's why not. So, I mean, they've only got a population of 320,000. So if every white nationalist on the world moved there, they pretty much take over the country. So
yeah,
that's what I always thought. But my God, I mean, I can't even pronounce this guy's name, but he raped his stepdaughter for like 12 years. Jesus Christ. He only got 5 years in prison. You need 5 years on the rack. You need 5 years in a bonfire. Jesus. Oh. But it might be also why, because from what I heard, Iceland's pretty liberal too. But my God, 5 years. Only 5 years? Oh, damn.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I don't know if I'd be disgusted or not. I mean, it's just like, nah, par for the course at this point.
Well, I mean, as I say, they say it's center right, and I'm like, so center right, they're okay with this. Usually, like right wing governments are a lot harsher on crimes like that.
Yeah, that was the part that boggled me. It's like center right. Wait a minute, what? Like, I don't think right and left means right and left anymore, to be honest, at this point.
Yeah. I boil it down to progressive and traditional.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to really look at it at this point. Although most progressive at this point, I would call regressive.
Yeah, same here. But I mean, just for to sound, I guess, to sound objective is where I'd use the term progressive. Just to, if I don't know the person, it's progressive, and then when they start talking, then I'll know if I'm going to use that term or not, whether it'll be to describe it to them accurately or to troll them.
Gotcha. No, I understand your point. It's kind of like when there's some terms that you use and people just triggered one way, and then you go, if you rephrase it, they go, oh, no, wait, that's okay. It's like, no, it's the same thing. I just use a different set of words. Okay, whatever. But at any rate, shall we move on?
I guess I wanted to use this real quick just to ask a quick question. Maybe people in the chat can do too. When it comes to things like this, especially such long-term rape, what do you think? What's your view on the punishment? I almost think death penalty should be.
I would agree. Hold on one sec. I got to go and send somebody an invite.
Okay. I guess I'll give my opinion on that real quick. I think that for things like that, especially such a scene, almost sadistic torture, because I would consider rape and sexual assault torture, I think you can make a case for making such, causing such harm to someone. You can make a case for the death penalty, especially if you prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. But I understand, too, people are against the death penalty, and I would then argue, if not the death penalty, then life in prison or extremely long prison sentence, because they shouldn't be out there doing those acts. If they've done it once, they'll probably do it again.
Oh, I agree 100%. My personal opinion on the death penalty is that, unfortunately, it's one of those things you can't take back.
Yeah.
There are times where I'm like going, trust me, at my job, I have dealt with some clients who have seen things where I'm going, no, I could totally see killing somebody in that situation. But that said, you can't change your mind even if you say we've definitively proved this. I think the death penalty, it should go to life imprisonment. But if you screw up in life imprisonment, then it's death penalty. Okay, like because you can't commit crimes in the jail. You can kill other people in there. You can stab somebody else, and I think at that point the penalty isn't, oh, we're going to add more years to your life sentence. It's now we kill you.
Yeah. That's it.
Because then it's like, dude, okay, we're going to give you a way out, but now we've got twice you've screwed up bad. So I think we know what we need to do at this point. But because I would be very comfortable with that. I would, as it is, because I know one guy indirectly through a friend. It's not my friend, but a friend of a friend who his sister got gang raped for like 2 days. And she went to the judge and they prosecuted and the whole group got off. And then he went to their motorcycle gang club and killed all of them. I'm with you on you shouldn't do vigilante justice like that. But on the other hand, I don't think he entirely deserved the death penalty. Sorry, but they got off on a technicality. So now if after in prison he screwed up again, I'd be with you for putting him on the death penalty because, but that first time he definitely needed life in prison. No problem about it. Anybody who can do that much death should not be walking around the rest of us, but he was a pretty decent guy. I've read some of the letters when she talked with him and stuff. But it was that singular moment where there is no justice. I'm going to go fix this.
Yeah.
So. Hey, I'm better than you is. How's it going?
Is it working?
Yep, I can hear you.
Bloody hell. I didn't do a bloody thing to it this time and it fucking worked. Oh, I don't get this damn computer.
I do not understand your internet connection. It's bizarre. How's things down in the land down under?
Yeah, it's, well, lately it's been a little bit bizarre with the fires. We've had a sizable season or off season. I don't know. I just get the impression things have gone downhill since I left. Anyway, other than that, nothing really much. I've got some news about me mate I was telling you about before. The one that's going for murder.
How's things turning out for him?
Yeah, actually, it's pretty good. I got a chance to read the brief, and holy shit, did the cops fuck up something bad. But a bloke who's got mental conditions, both debilitating and behavioural. He was absolutely fucking blind, rotten drunk at the time, and the cop has sat him down in the interview room, and he's gone, "Oh, whatever you's got, yep, fuck it, I'll put my hand up for it." And they're going with that.
Oh God, you can't do that in an interview because
they're going with it.
Yeah, because the moment somebody says that, it'll be trashed in the courts. It'll be trashed in the courts.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Yeah, this is the friend that was set up by that crazy woman, right?
Well, it gets even better with that. So now you go through the witness statements, and the witnesses only see my friend stab this bloke in the front twice, right? Now, it's not the 2 front stab wounds that the police are worrying about, it's the one in the back. Now, the witnesses state that after my friend had stabbed this guy in the front twice, he'd sat back and back. This is when this witness had left me mate, this Sheila, and this, the victim in the room by themselves. Shortly after, my mate appears, and then shortly after that, this is when this Sheila comes running out screaming that this bloke is emphatically dead. However, when the Ambos rocked up, they still got a rhythm out of him. And I reckon if anyone had tried first aid initially, it would have been, he probably would have lived long enough to get at least to the hospital. But in any case, the 3rd stab wound, the one that they're worried about, the one that they're calling murder, is twice as deep as the first 2. And if you had a look at these 2 individuals, it wouldn't be a hard push to see that, well, if one person, this is where it gets a bit complicated too. If one person is half the size of the attacker and thinks, well, I can mimic a fatal wound by mimicking this really big dude, so I'll give this big old thrust, not knowing that the first two are actually quite pathetic in consideration to what this bloke could have done. There's two differences in the stab wounds themselves, especially to considering that the first two were just a straight in and out, and this last one had a bit of a wobble to it, so it was someone that had to actually, work against a vacuum and shit. There was another thing about a 000 phone call, which got about as far. Oh, fuck me!
Wow, I know you were talking about.
Hang on.
Yeah, if you needed to deal with that, I'll update everybody else. Basically, he had a friend who got into a weird situation with a friend of his who was, I'm not sure if he was dating the crazy woman or if his friend was dating the crazy woman, but she basically worked them both up, right? You
Still
back?
on?
Yeah, you're still on. You back?
Oh, yeah, it just says, it said it was disconnected and went quiet for a sec. Yeah, well, what was it? Oh, yeah, there was a 000 phone call where this Sheila had emphatically mentioned over the phone, they've got a recording of this too, that the relationship between the victim and this Sheila was over, and that, she wanted the police to go and get her stuff from his place. So that's the story changes in the statement, that it wasn't that they were broken up, it was that they were, in love forever and ever and ever, and happily ever after bullshit. But the cops asked, okay, what about this 000 phone call where you said blah, and she goes, oh, I was just being silly, and they went with that.
Pussy pass. Sorry. But wow, no, I thought there was something up with her, but the fact that there's actually evidence that it looks like two different people stabbed this guy, from everything you told me about her, I'm. Man, it would not surprise me if she thought, oh, nobody's looking. I'm going to give him one more stab in the back just to make sure he's polished off.
Well, it gets even better too, because her previous love of her life, which was only 6 months previous to that, hung himself. And then about 6 months before that, another good dear friend of hers suddenly died. See where this is going.
Yeah, that's not...
Are we insinuating it wasn't actually, quote unquote, sudden death, just more some terrible thing that this chick did?
He was found dead in his home, and no one's saying exactly how or why. I'm suggesting it's probably more drug related than anything, but yeah, she wouldn't have helped the matter, I tell you that.
You're coming in at the you're coming in on the end of this story, but the stuff that I'm better than you has told me about this woman. She's like a black widow. She is crazy. She is nuts.
I was thinking. I was gonna say you should nickname her the Australian Black Widow, the Outback Black Widow.
Nah, we call her the bloody bush pig.
Oh, there you go. I like
the
that
what?
One.
Bush pig.
What's that?
A bush pig is typically a Sheila in Australia that no one wants to root, and you'd have to be absolutely almost fucking dead drunk to root this thing.
What's a Sheila?
It's Australian slang for a girl or a woman.
Oh. Well, okay then.
They speak a different language down there.
I guess.
It's just the proper way.
That's what we say in California too.
They speak properly. Pip pip tally ho.
No,
That's what
there was a Jimmy Carr joke where he says to an American crowd, he's like, I know this sounds a bit bizarre to you, the way I'm speaking and whatnot, but this is how it's supposed to sound.
No.
That's never a good way to start off a conversation.
No, it's
I'm not being pretentious. I'm just thinking about far more important things that you couldn't simply understand. There you go, pat on the head.
Well, I'm glad to hear that things are turning around for your friend there, because I'm like, man, it certainly sounds like he's getting screwed, but it's good to know that they're turning up at least a series of precedents, because that doesn't look good. It might be circumstantial, but it doesn't look good that you've got a series of deaths related to one person.
I know, but my mate did do something. Like, don't get that point mixed up. Like, I fully understand and I fully,
Oh, he did lose it. I give it that wrong, but part of this is she enjoyed winding him up.
if he'd only manslaughtered the bloke, well, then the charge should only be manslaughter. Right? You were going on about this before about the vigilante justice and how, fucking the law should state this, 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 and this. And fucking, well, this is exactly the same thing. He didn't, in fact, kill the guy. He might have mortally wounded him. So, well, then you can only get him for the mortal wounding.
That's true.
Yeah, no, although I'll be honest, I mean, everything you told me before, if you said that there was a weird third stab, I'd be like, no, I totally believe that she stabbed him in the back. I totally believe it. Like, her obsession with drama is just off the charts from everything you told me.
Oh yeah, and there's way more. There's like, when this is over and I can get the statement and all, like the brief and all this shit, I'll go through it all. I don't know whether I'll do it like, maybe something like this, or whether I'll do a series of videos. But I'm going to go through fucking every bloody thing.
I look forward to seeing that.
It.
Anyway, was there anything else you wanted to chat about, or shall we get to some of the other topics?
Let's move on.
Briefly wanted to touch on that they've made a ruling that apparently they can't deny grant money to sanctuary cities in the Americas. So apparently if you're a city in America chooses to ignore federal law, the federal government still has to keep giving you money.
Shit.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to fly past the Supreme Court, but right now that's holding everything up. I cannot wait until the new...
the DACA and the Dreamers and shit?
Oh, yeah. I mean, God, I cannot wait until DACA goes away.
Why?
It's not just the bloody Dreamers and all this kind of stuff. There is this... There is this mass sort of epidemic around the world that people are starting. It's like that movie Mars Attacks, where like the aliens would come out and say we're friendly, and then as soon as you poke your head up, they'll blow it off. Right? The same thing's happening with a lot of these immigrants. We're poor hard done boys. But unfortunately, there is a massive criminal element in them. We've got that out here already. We've had it for decades.
I mean, I'm all for immigration that's legal. Please, the moment you get a social security number, you're, an American as far as I'm concerned, and you're, deserve all the crap the rest of us get. Although
I can agree with you to an extent. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I can agree with you to an extent. Like, I'd be totally fine with people like immigrating legally if it weren't for the fact that our current system for immigration is super convoluted, extremely expensive, and very difficult to get in. It's ridiculous to try and immigrate to America right now because it can take anywhere from 3 to 15 years and upwards of $5,000 or more. And not everyone has that, especially people who are coming in just trying to get work. A lot of our illegal immigration is actually from people who had work visas that just expired.
No,
yeah, same here.
Yeah, but the crazy thing is, though, try and immigrate anywhere else. 3 years is nothing compared to most other countries. We have pretty much the most lax system on the world. I mean, comparatively speaking. Like my whole thing about it is whatever system I would like the new system that Trump proposed. I love that new system. I don't know why it's getting shot down. The whole point system is the same thing in Canada. It's the same thing in Australia. It looks beautiful. It looks like it'll streamline everything, and it'll bring in the people who want to be Americans. You want to be an American? You want our culture? Come on in. As long as you want our attitude and you've got the same outlook as us, I like you. I don't care about anything else you want as long as you're the whole thing like our country's okay. It's when you have people who come in who they're just colonizing and shipping money back. And that happens more than you think.
No, I know it does.
Epidemic. You come out to
I worked in factories. I know.
If you come out to Sydney, there's an area we call Lebkemba. So like Auburn, Bankstown, Lidcombe, those kinds of areas. And they're all full of, it's absolutely chock-a-block full of Arabs and shit, right? And yeah, that's what they do. They'll come in, they'll start moving in, they'll start buying out the houses in one street. Next thing you know, they've got half the suburb. Next thing you know, there's this entire block of Sydney you just can't go into if you're not a Muzzo. We've got that here.
We have that in California too.
What we should have done with
kind of like that in Minnesota.
With Hispanics.
It's colonization.
Ours is with Somalis.
With that, I'm sorry.
Oh,
What we
go
should
ahead.
have done years ago. What we should have done years ago is instead of just letting them in and just letting them just go wherever the hell they wanted, because that basically meant that they'll go wandering around, they'll find the first person that speaks their language, and that's where they'll prop. And the same thing will happen to the next person that comes through, and so on. What they should have done was say, right, Mr. Hu Flung Dung, you've just come in from Vietnam, right? You're going out the back of Kobar somewhere, so you're going to be in this country bumpkin town. You're going to be the only Asian person there, but you're going to learn our culture and our language before you can move to Sydney.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure entirely how to legally do that, but I understand the sentiment. It's probably the best way to do it. When you allow colonization, basically, and concentration, people don't assimilate. And
but that's essentially what's happened in the majority of the United States. That's why you have large chunks of populations where, like, for example, I'm in Minnesota. Large chunk of our population is mostly Scandinavian or German. And when we all first immigrated here, that's what it was. It was this chunk of these people that spoke this language and had this culture. Yeah, it took them time to assimilate, and it took a couple generations, and that's going to be a thing that happens now. A lot of the younger generation from, like, what we have as the Somalis, really, really bad, really fucking bad. And a lot of the younger ones are, I know, they're way more into, we want to be American. We want to get into this culture. We want to be treated equally. We want to be with everyone else. But because of the fact that a lot of the older generations don't really want that, because they're more into that concept of being in our own little group, it makes it harder for the younger generations to be more in the other demographics, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Oh,
the schools are the main reason why that happens.
Okay. You're talking to a Pollock. Here in central New York, we were freaking insurrectionists from the homeland. I mean, at 8 years old, I got brought in, only the boys, to have a conversation with a man who had all of his fingernails ripped out so he could scare into me how evil communism was. Like, my grandfather actively helped people escape from Poland. I mean, and that was our little community here with the pierogies and the dough and the, you know, and the church and the everything. But, you know, but the thing is, though, is you get that. You get the colonization. The question is how do you break it up? How do you get them to kind of, like, chillax? You know,
and again, a lot of the younger ones do want that chillax. They don't want to be in this tiny little group. They want to be able to branch out and come into more of the American culture. It's why they get so into, like, our fashion, for example, or our music. They are so into that shit. It's stupid. And most of it's the stupid hip hop shit, which I can't fucking stand. But at the same time, you still have all the older generations that are sitting here going, no, 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 we are us, and that is it. And we don't want them. We want us. And that's where a lot of people have problems, because that's all we really see. They're the most vocal. And that's what the major issue is, especially up here with trying to get people to assimilate as much, is you have the more vocal older generation saying, no, we don't want to. And that's all we see. So it's not necessarily true to say that.
Well, I know what the solution is. When I was a bill collector, I had a very small group, and they deliberately gave me the worst department in the office. And my work team was a white supremacist, a Jew, and a stripper. I kid you not. That was my whole department.
It sounds like a setup of a bad joke.
Yeah, I know it does, but I got them working together, and we started making so much money. We were making more money than anybody else because I found a loophole in the system in the bonus structure, and we were making money hand over fist. And I'll tell you this, Goldstein looked at the guy who was a crackhead white supremacist, literally. Blonde, and he was the shortest blonde you ever met. But they each liked each other. But they go, yeah, I don't like Jews, but he's an okay Jew. And I don't like him as a Nazi, but he's an okay Nazi. You want to know why? Because they were both making money hand over fist. Making money solves a lot of problems. Okay, if we start getting people jobs and people are going to work and people are getting money, yeah, they'll have their own little petty little problems. But in the end, they'll look over and go, you know what? I'm making enough money that I just don't care. I just don't care.
I can agree with that.
You know, that's why I think it's all about the economy. It's all about the economy.
That I will wholeheartedly agree.
You got a point there.
How much more successful do you reckon you'd be if you had boobs involved with it as well as money?
I mean, hi.
They had a stripper.
By the way, I'm better than you as is a little blunt.
That's
I'm psychologically unstable, which basically means I speak my mind. I don't give a flying fuck.
Any rate, any last comments or topics, discussion on the topic?
I kind of wanted to go on to the back about that the younger generation thing you brought up. I think the schools are a big part of that too. A lot of people, because I'm a just terrible millennial, and a lot of people. A lot of people my age who are either parent or children of immigrants or who immigrated when they were younger aren't like their parents. They don't hold on so tightly to being from Venezuela or Mexico or Panama or wherever. They identify very much as American. They're some of the best English speakers and best Spanish speakers I've ever met. They completely assimilate into various arts, obviously, music, television, that, fashion, but they assimilate and they carry a little bit of their culture, but also greatly attach to the American culture. So I think you have a point there. But also the criminal element, too, is a big thing. We do have that a lot down in here in California. A lot of cartels. We catch people all the way up the state and down, drug running and human trafficking. So both elements are true, and both things need to be worked on.
I personally think when it comes to like what you said with the criminal stuff, a lot of that has to do with the economy. Like what you had said earlier with the economy being a major thing. A lot of the people that aren't originally from America have a hard time with getting good jobs. And most of it is, honestly, I think racist bullshit. But at the same time, when it comes to that, if you honestly believe that there's no other way for you to make money than to do these awful, terrible things, that's what you're going to do. And if that's what's been ingrained into your head, that the only way you're going to succeed is by doing these awful, terrible things, that's what you're going to do. One of the main things I see with that is if we start working on, like, I know some people probably don't like this idea, like the affirmative action shit. I know how dumb it sounds, and I know that kind of sounds like that reverse racism shit. But in the end, by being able to have more people of different backgrounds in higher positions in any kind of company, making that money where they don't have to worry about when they're going to get food on the table every day, that's really going to help bring down criminal activity.
Not necessarily.
Before you go, I hate to burst your bubble, but you're talking to somebody who was in the banking industry for over 12 years and was a pretty ruthless bastard. And we loved affirmative action. You know why we loved it? Because when we had a political rival, we'd fire that guy and replace him with the absolute worst black lesbian woman we could find for the job, because we know she'd never get fired and she would never be a threat. And if you're wondering if that happened, well, I would only point out Fleet Bank, which no longer exists, and about 2 or 3 other banks that no longer exist that I was a member of. And it's a recurring theme where you think that it's a solution, but it's not. It gets turned into a weapon. And
I can agree with that.
It's a great concept. It really is. Like, and I'm with it. Like, okay, let's get these people money, but I don't think that's the way to do it. I don't know what the solution is, but I'm telling you, it didn't work. I know for a fact.
No, like I agree with you. I totally agree with you. It's the best example I have of an idea.
But anyway, I'm better than you. As you wanted to say something.
And then you have a look at what's happening out here. Like, we've got several generations of immigrants and all this kind of stuff, and it's really the Muslims you've really got to worry about. Like, we get coined as being racist, but fucking we've got every right to be. We've seen all of this before. That's why we were telling the Europeans to shut the Mediterranean down. Don't take any boat people. We know why. But with that lead camber or leboline I was telling you about earlier, 90% of the males of working age don't work. They're either on the dole or they're selling drugs or doing other nefarious stuff like that. And another thing you got to watch out with the muzzos too is when they start taking over an area, they'll breed like bloody rabbits. So that big chunk of area that I mentioned before with where they've already taken over, there's probably about 7 times the population in that small area alone than there is in the rest of Sydney, simply because they breed like fucking rabbits.
At any rate, Feta, you wanted to say something? I think you got cut off.
I guess I was just going to bring up a response to the affirmative action thing, but it's kind of a moot point.
Gotcha. Anybody else want to make any comments? I think overall, again, I think the only solution is let's get everybody jobs, because if you're working, even if it's, halfway decent, not really that important, but you're still making enough to like live in your own little hovel. You don't have time to mount a revolution, and you really don't care about a lot of this stuff, and you pretty much mellow out. Desperate people are usually ones who take desperate actions. So I don't know if there's a way to just give everybody a job, but that's for somebody smarter than me. At any rate, moving on to, I don't know. I'm looking at the remainder of these topics. I'm not too impressed with them. We've got Antifa member stabbing a woman for holding a sign supporting Shapiro. Who, by the way, I've got to say this, he's a pretty liberal Jew. Okay, why they call him a Nazi is beyond me. Pretty much the only thing about him is that he goes, he believes in nationalism. That's about it. And for the record, I'm against genetic supremacy, but I don't think that national supremacy is so bad. It's defending your own culture, because there's not a lot of cultures on the planet. There's only 197 nations on this planet, and if each one has 10 cultures, that's only 2,000 cultures. We've got 7 billion people. You only need 4,200 people who are willing to have sex with each other to have their phenotype last for 1,000 years, 95% of the time. That's simple math. Okay, so I'm not worried about whites being bred out or anything like that. We're going to have genetically modified babies in 100 years. You're going to have to worry about now. Yeah, we're doing that now. Okay, so don't worry about your race being bred out of existence. That isn't the issue. The issue is, are your ideas going to be destroyed? That's my problem. Because some ideas are great and some ideas suck, and to say all ideas are equal is my problem. But
all ideas will be shat on. It doesn't matter how good they are. I mean, like, look at the way they're trying to rewrite history now.
Yeah, that's another problem. You can't judge the past on the morality of today. If you forget your past, you're going to make the same mistakes over and over. And then when I watch these people destroying statues, I'm like, that's not good. That's not good.
Didn't they do that in some communist countries? And they did that in Iraq as well, eh?
No, yeah. Whenever they want to make a break, they destroy all the statues. And the problem is look how Iraq turned out. Nothing personal, but maybe we should have left the dictator there, because at least less people died.
Not necessarily.
Are we talking like Saddam?
Yeah, I mean, we've killed millions of people because of this war, and Saddam killed a couple of thousand. Do you think that?
In all fairness, we put Saddam there in the first place.
Yeah, that too.
The only reason we took him out is because he wasn't selling oil to us anymore. That was the only reason.
That's it.
No.
It was a Bush thing too.
Well, hold on. Let's hear his theory.
Nah. Here comes the military expert who's going to school you lot in war.
Okay.
The reason why they got rid of Saddam wasn't because of Saddam not playing nice or anything like that. It was his sons, Uday and Qusay. Collectively, they were probably about 10 times worse than Saddam together. All right? So you imagine what would happen when them two little belligerent cunts got in? That's the real reason why they got rid of him.
Well, you know what? Actually, I remember what you're talking about. I remember when they did the investigation of one of his son's palaces, and they showed the torture dungeons where he had his fun. So I'm with you on to some regard that probably his sons were worse. Whether or not in the long run it was better for the people of Iraq, that's up for debate.
I'd say it possibly would be, because at least now the killing is in check. I mean, it might sound a bit of like a heartless sort of, oh, you're a bit of a cunt for saying it, but at least we now know that these people are dying at this level. Before we didn't. And that was the kind of the thing, they were throwing prisoners off bloody roofs and shit just for fun, watch them squirm around with broken bones and shit. That kind of stuff never got documented before. And if you go have a look into the chemical weapons attacks that Saddam actually did to the Kurds and the Iranians, you'll probably find that there's only about 4 bits of footage of that.
That is sort of. You do have a point there. We don't know what the actual difference would have been. Like, unfortunately, it's woulda, coulda, shoulda. So
but we had to.
Okay, I respect your opinion on it.
Then there's another little fact that everybody seems to forget too, is that the first Gulf War ended on a ceasefire. It could have started up at any point in time, anywhere between those 10 years, and Saddam had actually broken enough rules to dictate that there should have been an invasion earlier. Clinton bombed Baghdad because he kicked the inspectors out. There was another sanction they put on Baghdad for something else that he did. But by the time we invaded, like we had we didn't even need an excuse, but we had the excuses under the sun. They just picked a shit one.
Well, just to clarify here, all of my comments are with the 2020 vision of hindsight. Okay, at the time, I in the situation it was, I can't fault the decisions that were made entirely because you're right. There were a lot of good reasons for doing it. And at the time, we had no idea how much of a quagmire it was going to be. All right. So, I mean, at the time, it probably was a good decision. In retrospect, I'm not so sure.
But then another instance too, where people are bringing up about the excuses of why we went there in the first place. They keep saying, but we didn't find any chemical weapons. Well, the point of that is that he did have them. He's used them on several occasions. I just mentioned one where he did. We know how many he had because George W.'s daddy had the bloody receipts for him. We know how many he used and we know how many he should have left. We know that he couldn't disarm them himself. So where are they? And as far as anybody's concerned, they just magically disappeared. And everyone's fine with that.
Oddly enough, I always wondered if it went over to Syria.
Some of them did.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Yes, I will tell you now that some of them actually did. There's been about 3 occasions where Iraqi special forces have taken caches of chemical precursors and some centrifuge equipment, some actual building equipment, both sides of the Iraq-Syrian border. Now, with Assad, he'd given up all of his chemical weapons to the United Nations, and that was the difference between him and Saddam. That's the reason why Obama didn't invade Syria when he said he was going to, because he couldn't prove that the chemical weapons were there. Yet, the internet community and people like me could actually prove more that it wasn't any chemical weapons at all. And in the second instance, first instance, they said, oh, Assad used chemical weapons and all these chemical burns. Look at these chemical burns. And we went, sorry, mate, they're not chemical burns. And then the next one comes out and these poor kids have got scorch marks on them. Like, oh, you fucking assholes. That's not a chemical burn either. Yep.
It was hard to look at. Like, I'm a mom. To see a bunch of kids like that.
Well, the thing is, and that's what these people are doing, is they're using these kids as propaganda to make people like you feel sorry for the poor little hard-done-bys being beaten down by big, nasty Assad. And it's not actually Assad that's being the big nasty in this.
I think that every time we try to interfere with them, we screw things up worse. That's just my general opinion.
I don't know, a giant glass lake, fuck them.
You know, if we could just say, look, things are pretty stable here. You do you. We're going to be over here, and that's my opinion of our political stance should be. Because the more we try to save people, the worse we make things.
This may sound a little cold, but I'd say why not just be imperialistic for a moment and just fucking take over.
Yep. Well, I mean, there's some merit to that. I mean, but the big problem is that there's only 2 ways. You could do it the way that the British Empire did it, where they actually helped the locals. Their populations increased. Or you can do the Muslim method, where you move into an area and the local populations decrease, and they salt the earth where the city used to be.
Oh, I'd go British
route.
What
the Australians do, just not piss everyone off.
The problem is it gets really expensive to start helping everybody on the planet. And
true.
And then
it had to be like a group effort to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it would be great. It'd be wonderful. But you know what? Honestly, before 9/11, it might have been possible in 2000. Like, as I don't know if you guys remember it back then. Well, most of you are too young.
I was 10.
But the year 2000, before 2001, there seemed to be like this whole, the world's at peace. Everything's doing okay. And you know what? If we all just work together, it's going to be a wonderful time. And
I remember that.
And everybody was really optimistic. And then 9/11 and everything went to shit.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have a look at it, right? In 2000, we had the Olympics in Sydney, and it was the first Olympics in, 30 years that didn't have a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
You see something like that, and you think, hey, fuck, maybe the world has changed a little bit. And then, a few months later, it's like,
Yeah, it's kind of sad about it. At any rate, are we done with this topic? Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Briefly want to touch on social network Gab files antitrust suit against Google after Google basically banned them. So And the reason for banning Gab is
What?
a Gab dot AI or IU or something like that. It's a basically it's been labeled alt-right Twitter, and I hang out there and it really isn't.
Oh.
It's just a bunch of shit posters.
Can they do something like that with a German rag?
Yeah, and so Google basically said they no longer exist and kind of took them off of their algorithms. And that's why Gab's suing them, because Google is, well, let's face facts here. As far as search engines go, all the other search engines piggyback off of Google. Most people don't know that. They take Google's database and they use it. So Google is got a monopoly. And so I personally am all for them being treated like they're a monopoly, and they, and being regulated by the government. I don't like government regulation, but I don't see a better choice. So, because the more, again, it comes back to the Pareto effect. The more speech you have, the more good speech you'll have. If you try to censor speech and get rid of speech, guess what? You just decrease the over amount of speech, and all speech gets worse. It's math. It's how it works. And
I wonder what's going to happen when Google keeps doing this, and especially with the YouTubers and rich YouTubers like fucking PewDiePie, when they all get together and have a class action against Google about them wrecking their incomes and stuff by not putting them on the page. Wonder how Google's going to go with that.
I don't think that's going to happen because of I've read the agreement you make when you go on Google. Google's pretty much ironclad.
So you're here and you do what we like, or else fuck off.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But what I am thinking is what would happen if PewDiePie, JonTron, and about half dozen other places all said, you know what? Let's all migrate all at once to one place and delete our old channels. It'd be like a heart attack. It'd be like YouTube had a heart attack. If the top 10 people left YouTube and went somewhere else, it'd be like, I don't think it would ever recover.
Well, since YouTube's hemorrhaging money anyway, and this whole adpocalypse bullshit, it's all because YouTube is hemorrhaging money from Google, and they can't sell it. It's a dead product. No one wants to buy it. It's too expensive and it costs too much to run. And this is where all this bullshit with the algorithm foul up. Oh, some people weren't getting put on notifications. Oh, well, we'll have to make another notification for the notifications in your subscriptions. All this kind of shit. It's just a way of pissing people off so they don't have to pay them anymore, because they've, in some countries, when you sign up for YouTube, they basically say, yes, you will get a job if you do AdSense and all this kind of stuff. And that is, in some countries, as good as a written contract. So with these people now, because they might have dropped a fart in one of their live streams 3 years ago, now all their videos can't be monetized because of that one fart. Fucking
well, anybody under 10,000 is being demonetized too.
Oh yeah, and that's until you get over the 10,000 mark, and then they won't retroactively give you back your views and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, and then you have to get at least 1,000 views in the first week, or it doesn't count.
Yeah. But with the whole decrease in money thing, like the with YouTube active, like they can prove that that YouTube's actively doing this. It's self-sabotage, and there's some industrial law against it as well, with the whole collapsing the company and all this shit. But we fucking yeah, keep talking. I just phoned out there for a sec. It happens sometimes.
That's all right.
Yeah, it happens.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Like if YouTube's blowing all this fucking money trying to keep it afloat, and then the top 10 big YouTubers go and sue YouTube for loss of income, that fucking hurt them even more.
Oh, well, a lawsuit would be a good ending for YouTube. If they got a lawsuit, it'd be a good ending. If they just said screw it and left, yeah, it'd be over. It'd be over tomorrow. Because you know that would send a shockwave. And there would be like everybody else would go, whoa, okay, this place is dead. Even if it wasn't, even if it could survive the loss of the top 10, people would just immediately jump ship because they'd be scared.
Yeah, well, it was all dumb fuck young idiots in YouTube. They were paying too much money for too many people with a really bad business product, and now it's biting them in the ass.
I can understand them changing how you're paying things, but my problem is that they're censoring people. Like, if you're going to improve the product, you need to have more speech, not less. Every time you stop views, you decrease the quality of your product, even a little bit.
Yeah, well, with that whole adpocalypse thing, yeah, YouTube did that themselves. Like, the New York Times all of a sudden came out, like, however many years after the rise of ISIS and all this kind of stuff. Oh my gosh, the jihadis are using YouTube as a money stream, as if fucking YouTube didn't know that already. Oh, come on.
Yeah, YouTube should have told them to go screw themselves. And in doing so, they would have gotten everybody to rally behind them, and all the content creators be like, go YouTube, we love you.
That means YouTube continues on and they still have to pay people. But if they went to the news and, oh, big scandal, oh, dear, people are pulling out their advertising. Oh, so if they're not going to advertise and yet we can't pay you. That's their little out with the whole income stream thing.
They could have been honest. They could have been honest and people would have forgiven them. But
yep. And it just goes to show that they weren't being honest, because there was that. You remember that one a few months ago where they pulled out this Sheila and she just basically shrugs her shoulders, puts her hands up in the air, and goes, fuck if we know, suck it up, princess.
Oh yeah, what's her name? I know what you're talking about. Like that. Yeah, that she basically told everybody to go screw themselves.
Yeah, pretty much.
And she was a YouTube exec, and she basically said, "Go screw yourself." I mean, that's the summary of everything she said. And it was like, hello, excuse me. You think we're not giving you anything? We're giving you our time. We're giving you our expertise, and we can take our product anywhere, and our audience will follow us. So, but
well, that's the thing, is when you talk about the ripple effect of even if it's just one, like say PewDiePie would be actually the best example. If another channel or another platform were able to do anything similar to what YouTube does, which is live stream, upload, and maintain an archive of upload, and have an ad payment plan, be able to pay for it. It takes PewDiePie to put his stuff on there as well to start YouTube's downfall.
Oh yeah, he could. I mean, even I think any of the guys who are over, 3 or 4 million could start it.
But that would be the big one.
Yeah, but he's the one who would get headlines off YouTube site.
And then you would see the entire niche that we're in would just go.
Oh, yeah.
All of the politics, the skeptics would just whoosh. They would delete their channels here. Well, they would keep them up until they were able to move everything over. You would see a lot of gamers, the gaming and vlogging would go over. Yeah. We have them on Twitch too, but you also have a lot of gamers that like to do uploads. And they're all finding other stuff. The only thing that's really keeping YouTube relevant right now is the fact that Patreon can be linked in the description.
That's true. Patreon can be linked in the description. The super chat, you can get people, donating money directly, which is kind of easy. And you're
PayPal.
right. That's about it. Yeah, PayPal. I mean, but these are things that these are just technical issues. Somebody else came along with a better platform than YouTube, I'd be gone. But it's hard to find some place to live stream that stores like this. And they don't even really support it well either.
Well, there are a few places out there, like some of the gamers that I follow, they've mentioned about I haven't really paid attention to what sites they were, but yeah, they're doing YouTube as well as the other site, but they're getting their money from the other site and just storing their shit on YouTube.
I'm VidMe.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of VidMe's starting to get their act together. They're slowly creeping along. I'm liking their new transfer process so that I can move things over a lot easier, so I don't have to download it and then re-upload it. I can just switch it over directly. But getting that first 50 followers so that they'll let you do more than 30-minute videos. Like this video, we're going on an hour and a half now, too. Which, by the way, we should probably wrap up. It's getting too long. But yeah, there's no way I could put it on VidMe because it's not 30 minutes.
I'm right. I've got a few more beers. We can go on for a while.
Well, I've got no problem with it. Like,
I've got all night.
As long as we're having fun, that's what matters.
We'll have a brief intermission to get some more beers and come back.
I just come back from fucking Sydney this morning and I don't have to do shit till Tuesday, so.
At any rate. Let's slam these last 3 out of the way, and then we can just get to general bullshitting. I don't know if you guys heard about Mizzou. I keep up with it, but apparently it's been 2 years since their stupid student riots, and their enrollment is down
you do.
35%.
That one with that silly bloody Sheila that was telling the guy with the camera to go away.
I need some muscle. Get some muscle. Oh yeah, God, that was
Melissa Click. That's it.
Yeah, Melissa Click. Well, they're hemorrhaging money. They are hemorrhaging. They are doing so bad, and part of me is just like going, yes, you arrogant sons of bitches, because they were, I mean, nothing personal, racist as hell. They were racist as hell. And I'm not just saying against white people, but black people too. The way they treated their own minorities was disgusting. They were like, oh, it was awful. Everything that came out of that place. And I don't, if anybody actually cares, you can go cycle back through my old videos and look up what I put out about Mizzou. They came out with these series of videos that I'm like looking at it and going, what the hell? This is borderline porn. Like, they've got all these scantily clad sorority girls, like, doing all these weird posing with all these sweeping drone shots. And I'm like going, what kind of advertising is this for student body? What are you trying? You're not selling me anything about the education. You're telling me that you've got scantily clad babes here. That's it. That's all you're telling me. So,
hang on. What happened to the rape culture?
Yeah, well, who cares about the? We don't care about that if we're not making money. I mean, seriously, you should go look at it. Like, I did my own smear on it, but it's like disturbing as hell to even look at the original.
That's where you see the regressive, oppression Olympics start to have issues where the oppression points start to fight each other. It's like, we don't want to piss off women and have them be scantily clad, but they're black and we need the blacks. So fuck. That's what you see happening. It's so funny.
You know what the funny thing is I'm if I'm remembering it correctly, it was like, I think there was like one black person in the whole video too.
Oh shit!
Then I was like going, man, not only
one token black guy.
There's like one token black guy. That's it. And I think he was in the background playing sports when they were spanning over. I mean,
That's not any better.
it was like, wow, you guys are really screwed in the head. You're like, you are total hypocrites. You're horrible people. You know that, right? You're bigots. You're just bigots. Oh my God. As much as you yell at other people, look in the mirror, dudes. Oh man.
And good for Mizzou.
Yeah, so yeah, Mizzou, man. I can't see this reversing anytime soon. It's basically the place is cancer. The place is cancer. You know, it's where careers go to die.
I think it's lost a division. Sorry.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was also part of the news article, is they couldn't get enough people to actually sign up for their sports teams. So, they've lost a division, I heard.
Well, these silly monkeys that are going to Mizzou are going to face the same perils as the people who went to Berkeley. Now that the university's out there, that's going to be a big stigma on your resume.
Oh yeah, it's resume stain at this point. If you're at Berkeley, if you're at Mizzou, if you're at Elder Green or whatever that place is up in the Northwest, that's
Evergreen.
Resume stain. Evergreen, yeah, that's resume stain. And I mean that because I've actually I got to talking with one of the HR department people here, and I remember bringing it up, and one of them was like laughing and go, "Yeah, we're not gonna have any of those around here." And I'm like, "What?" And I go, "Oh yeah, everybody knows about Evergreen. We are never hiring anybody from Evergreen." And I'm like, "Whoa, I thought no, heck no. After I've seen the news, nobody from there is ever getting hired here, because I've got two jobs, one for the state and one private." And man,
that was similar on with Berkeley and all the comment sections in on Live Leak, where pretty much every second one was, "I own a business and I'm never employing one of these fuckwits." Every second comment was like that.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but for some reason, a lot of the students in these colleges believe that it's supposed to be a home. It's not a home. It's a place where they store you like cordwood and then try to give you a career.
It's kids' gloves army. A lot of these cunts are growing up. They've gone through this. You can't chastise your children stuff, so they've never been punished for doing things wrong. And they've probably got parents who are like, "Oh, there, it's okay. You went and smashed the window with your soccer ball, but we know it's an accident." Even though the little bars is going, "Ha ha, I'm going to smash the next one too." And now they're getting into a place of authority, and they think they fucking rule the roost. The funny part about it is they got no idea about the real world, and it's going to be fucking funny when they get out there and find that the world is going to steamroll them like you wouldn't believe. It's going to be fun to watch.
Gwen, you had something you wanted to say?
I yawned.
Oh, okay. I mean, the perfect example, I think it was about maybe a year and a half ago, where a bunch of new hires at I forget what it was, some company, I forget the exact details, but they did not like the company culture. So about 30 or 40 of them got together and wrote up a letter, and they all signed it, and they sent it off to the president of the company telling him what they felt was wrong with the place. And it was typical social justice bullshit. And the owner of the company said, "Oh, so all of you who signed this, you all agree with this? You all feel with this? Everybody here is 100% behind this letter?" And he was acting all impressed. And he said, "Great, you're all fired." And then he walked out, and they all got the boot. And they were like, "I can't believe we got fired. You're a new hire. You're a nobody, and you're trying to take over the place. I'd fire you before. I wouldn't even given you the chance to defend yourself. Holy crap, you're cancer to my company. I'm in charge, not you." But they don't understand that. They think that people are supposed to take care of them. No, I'm sorry. In a meritocracy, you're kind of screwed. But
same thing here, man. Fucking you're last in, you're first out.
However, moving on to the next topic real quick here, kind of relevant. University promises disciplinary action for students who engage in hateful demonstrations. So if you think this cancer is going away anytime soon,
a hateful demonstration?
Yeah, this is University of Michigan, and if you think that this
it's Michigan.
Yeah, if you think this cancer is going away, it's not anytime soon. Like,
yeah, what did you say what was the words that they were going to use as the counteractive measure? What that first bit you read?
Disciplinary action. They promised disciplinary action for students who engage in hateful demonstrations.
Okay, so define disciplinary action from a bunch of soft cops.
Oh, they don't define it. They don't define it. It is literally those two words, disciplinary action. And what is
basically means
I mean, this is so vague it's impossible. It's basically they're saying that we can censor people. And to be honest, I would love to be censored by this university, because I would turn around and sue the crap out of them, and you'd win. This is indefensible.
It'd be funny. It's even funnier too. Like a university going, "Oh, we're going to, have disciplinary action," is like a fucking hippie threatening to punch you in your aura. Like, what the fuck?
I gotta use that one. I'm gonna punch you in your aura.
It would be like some fat anime nerd saying, "I'm gonna Naruto punch you in the fucking chakra" or some shit.
It starts to go into freaking Saiyan.
Super Saiyan just come. No.
I'm gonna Super Saiyan. If I had a fake foam head that looked like a Super Saiyan, I would love to. I'm gonna go Super, and then stick it on top of my head.
My butt hurts over 9,000. Oh my gosh, I can't even deal.
Stop.
However, in the article, when they were talking about what they considered hate speech, they did have a sign of a student looking very angry and holding up a "Trump Make America Great Again" sign. So I think we know what they're defining hate speech as. Anything that involves Trump, pretty much.
I remember when YouTube was starting up about the hate speech stuff, I thought, just to piss them off, I'd put one entitled "Hate Speech," and all it was a 40-minute video going about, "You know what I fucking hate? I hate it when you walk down the stairs and you trip and you almost fall head first down. You know what I fucking hate? When you drop your guts and it fucking really stinks, and even the cats don't like it.
You know what really grinds my gears?
You know what really grinds my gears? What really takes
the hate speech.
I hate. I'm full of hate. I just hate all this stuff. I hate when kids get on my lawn. I actually did you one better at the time, though. I did a video that was nothing but Nazi jokes, and it wasn't even like funny Nazi jokes. It was just some vaguely racist jokes and then I sort of devolved into being like PTSD Nazi from a camp, just going, "It was very cold. Have you ever cut the head off a Jew?" I mean, and just rambling insanity. And I'm like, I even had a big swastika and all sorts. This is back when they were calling PewDiePie a Nazi. It actually was not demonetized.
Really?
Really? They never noticed that. I'm like going, you ever cut the head off a Jew? They don't bleed like we do. Crazy shit like that. And it's like, what do you call it when you, what does Hitler tie his shoes with? Little Nazis. I mean, just surreal shit. And it never got, well, I mean, I think I've gotten blanket demonetized since the changes, but at the time it was up there for a while. I don't think I actually got many views, but.
All right. Okay. I've done this video, and things are about to get fucked up. So if you're weak of bowel or faint of heart, yeah, cover your ears, because these are some of the jokes that I did, and nothing happened over it. It's like, what's grey, runs up walls, and scares the shit out of Jews? Gas pipes.
What?
Oh, that's awful.
How do you fit 500 Jews in a mini miner?
Oh,
no, not the gas pipes. No, yeah. How do you fit 500 Jews in a mini miner? 2 in the front seat, 3 in the back seat, the rest in the ashtray.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Oh,
I reckon that one's bad. Here's one that'll make you fucking shit. Right? What's the difference between a Jew and a pizza?
Oh no.
what?
Pizza doesn't scream when you put it in the oven.
Oh! You know what's funny? I think I remember that one from when I was working at the collection agency. They had the worst Jew jokes. I mean, with those two guys, they would just rip into each other constantly. Goldstein and that I can't remember his name, but they hated they were always insulting each other, but it was funny as hell. I think I remember, what was it? If I knew, he came in one day and he started singing a song. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked you a cake, baked you a cake. I mean, he did this whole song and dance after I baked a cake. God. And I'm just like, wow. But back then in the collection agency, there was no holds barred, man. Like we would call people up and say, I will stand on the throats of your children so I get my money before food reaches their belly. I mean, not everybody did that, but you could get away with that crap. Man, not today, though, I bet. But, oh, that's some funny stuff. But the thing is, though, is that, you know, by the way, part Jewish, I'm not offended. It's okay. You can make the jokes. I know all the Polish jokes, too. Did you hear the Polacks bought 10,000 septic tanks? As soon as we learn how to drive them, we're going to invade Russia. I mean...
I should tell that to my grandfather. I'm half Polish as well, so I totally got you.
You know, I mean, you know, we kind of mellowed out about the whole thing going, you know what, there's what matters and then there's what doesn't matter. And you pick your battles, okay? Mm-hmm. And that just doesn't seem to happen anymore. And this whole censorship thing, it's just going to kill whatever this university is. University of Michigan is just going to burn. It's gonna implode. I mean, the whole state as whole is overrun with Democrats, so no wonder they're having financial problems. But besides that,
ouch.
Well, you're talking to somebody who was a Democrat for a long time. But I've got to admit the truth, okay? When I saw that one woman up there, I'm sorry. You wanted to say something?
My only argument is you can't necessarily blame like the state being out of money on the Democrats, because my argument for that is look at Minnesota. We are doing absolutely wonderfully. We've been run by Democrats for fucking years. We have a surplus right now.
You had Jesse Ventura.
That too, yes. Jesse Ventura was great, though. Fuck that. I don't care what nobody says. Jesse Ventura was an amazing person, and he did so good for this state. It hurt. And the fact that he can't come back.
Well, here's the thing. I think there's two types of Democrats. There's whatever has been infected. And then there's like business Democrats who are like pretty practical people. The problem is the business Democrats, they're out of power. You know, Jesse Ventura, I mean, they're not in control anymore. They've completely lost control. When I knew it was completely hopeless when I saw that one woman who was like trying to become the new head of the DNC was saying, I'm here to stand for black people and white people, and you need to sit down.
Wait, Debbie Wasserman Schultz or the lady who took over after her?
I'm not sure what her name is. I just remembered the rant. And she's saying, I'm here to stand for black people and help them speak and be heard. And then when the black moderator tried to cut her off because she's going, you're ranting too much, she said, wait, I'm not done. Like, I mean, that's like, everybody misses that part of the video. They just listen to the first part. They didn't listen all the way through to the end where she cuts off the black moderator to keep ranting. And you're like going, you are so tone deaf. You are so tone deaf, you know, and I don't know.
Oh no.
But you know, those business Democrats, they ended up becoming libertarians or Republican. That's what happened too.
Yeah,
this is
my
true.
case
Like
too.
I do tend to have more libertarian leanings. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, like me personally, I still have like some more kind of like socialist ideals. I know a lot of them are never gonna work in the real world because the real world don't work like a little rainbow party. But I still want it, you know.
You can join us.
Join us. No.
In the real world?
One of us.
A libertarian group.
One of us. One of us. One of us.
Well, I feel you though. I you know, being kind of like a minarchist in that, I'm like, oh, you know, no government and all this other stuff. I'm like, you know, it's not as utopic as it would be. So I feel you there.
No.
They got to have a sprinkle of reality with your policies.
I think that we're slowly moving in the right direction, and I think it's inevitable. I don't want to rant too much about that, but the more I watch the overall trends, the more it seems to be slowly sliding in the right direction. I'm hopeful overall. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I think the internet's the difference, because now whenever something really big happens, it isn't forgotten. You know, the next generation comes along and, hey, you can Google it. And you can see all the mistakes that happened before.
The problem with that is you just take a look at fucking September 11, for example, right? I was there. Well, I wasn't in New York, but I fucking watched it as it happened. And then that was as I was a firefighter at the time. And another firefighter mate were talking about it and all this kind of stuff. And then a few years later, there's all these bloody conspiracy bullshit coming up. And now we've got this problem with the new truthers that are coming into it. They're seeing the conspiracy before they actually see the real explanation for it, and they're believing the conspiracy. And this is where the internet's actually more of a detriment to society. This is also perpetuating that change of history shit.
I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect at all. But I think it's, like I said, it's an evolving process. As it improves.
It might just be the old fart coming out, you know, and you're like, oh, these newfangled computers and shit, yeah.
You're talking. I'm like that too, man. I got a flip phone.
I
refuse to get a smartphone.
My first phone was a flip phone.
I don't. You know, I want a dumb phone. I want my phone to be dumb as rocks.
I remember when you used to go into a bank and have to get your money out using a little passport-sized booklet.
Yep.
Mold.
Yeah, now your bank can exist online, give you money, vaporize the next day. I mean, seriously.
I know that they'll take your money, they'll launder the criminals' money, and then they'll play. Oh, we didn't know. Oh, you didn't hear about that?
I love my bank. Are you kidding me?
There's a major bank in Australia called the Commonwealth Bank, and we're calling it now the Criminwealth Bank because they went and put these self-service automatic teller machines in that you could deposit money into. And criminal organisations were rotting the fuck out of that. They were laundering money through them like fucking crazy, and they've only just got found out. In fact, I'm actually in the class action going against the Commonwealth Bank to get money back out of them.
Nice.
It's another funny story too.
One thing I fear with the way too how money's really electronic nowadays is like this is especially with America, the Federal Reserve. We're no longer going to start printing money. I feel we're going to start creating data money. Just click now.
Because it doesn't take anything to do it.
Oh, you want to hear a horror story that'll give you nightmares?
I went to the bathroom before, so I should be okay. Yes.
When I was working at Fleet Bank, I got put in charge of their late stage division, and I didn't realize it at the time. But the other parts of our company, not Fleet, FFC, CCF, I forget the exact abbreviation, whatever our division was.
FCC?
Yeah, the Fleet Credit Card Division, so FCCD. But everybody else, we had invested in Enron, we had invested in Kmart before the bankruptcy, we invested in Argentina before the bank collapse. We were hemorrhaging money. But the only thing that was making money were the credit cards. And one day they came in and said, "We need a miracle." And I said, "Really?" And they said, "Yes, we need a miracle. We need to reach this number." It was an impossible number. I said, "I can reach it, but don't pay attention to me for the rest of the month." I had found a loophole in the Re-Age program. They had made an or instead of an and. I'm a speed reader. And this little or instead of an and meant we only had to meet one of the 4 criteria and not all 4. What does that mean? Well, I'll sum it up for you. It basically allowed me to, if I could just get a small payment out of somebody, take a card that was about to be charged off and bring it current. Now, due to the way the system works, when you do that, it basically creates money that you can't use. It's just on the books. So my imaginary money would exist for 35 to 59 days before it disappeared. And I wrote a program that went through every single credit card in our system that I could get any amount of payment on money and use this little loophole. And I made $742,000 in like 23 days. Legally, I did not break the law. This was by the law. They're the ones who wrote it wrong, not me. I even ran it past the lawyers. After I did this, I got put in charge of my own little division. All our job was to do this nonstop. So we had this floating amount of $2 to $3 million on the books. Well, the thing is, that $2 to $3 million isn't real. You can't use it for anything, but you can technically say you have it, so we could spend our reserve money instead. I didn't know any of this at the time. I'm an idiot. I just thought, wow, I'm getting paid huge bonus checks. Right up until the point where they fired all of us and burned our computers.
Oh, my God.
Yes, when they fired me, I found out they took all of our computers and burned it because they had sold the place, and they didn't want the next company to know anything we were doing.
Yeah, First Fleet were doing something pretty similar with that. We had different divisions. Like there was operations, there was express, there was the logistics division, which actually doesn't have any trucks. But there was the head off, like their mid office, and then the head office, and they were doing all that kind of shit there too. And then there was also a fucking employment agency with them as well. So they were hiring people out and all this fake money was going left and right for taxation purposes, and they were writing it all off as taxation expenses, but work expenses. And they actually tried at one stage to say to all the drivers that if we transferred over to labour force instead of being in our own individual divisions and be hired back into the company to do our old jobs, basically now under labour force instead of First Fleet, then they could write us all off. Like every single second that we spent on the road, they could write that all off on tax.
Yeah, dude, all these loopholes pop up because when government interferes in business, they don't understand what they're talking about. And all it takes is an or instead of an and to create a cascade of craziness. And that's the problem. That's what regulation does. It does not protect people as much as people think it does. It sometimes makes things worse. The whole financial collapse of 2008, by the way, sorry about that. I was doing mortgages at the time, and I apologize for 2008. At least Western New York. I learned how to strip mine the equity out of entire neighborhoods. And it was a lot of money. I blame you.
It's all your fault.
No, I do accept blame for Western New York. No, I'm serious. I was handing out $50,000, $60,000 loans to people for houses I wouldn't have given you $100 for. But I got a penny for every dollar I loaned out. So if I loaned out $250,000, I got $2,500. And so,
right.
But the thing was, I was like, these loans are shit, right? They said, yeah. But we sell them to China. I'm like, oh, okay, so we're screwing China. Except China then sold it to India, and India then sold it back to us. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's why we were just selling the mortgages around in a big circle, and every time it changed hands, they made a little more money on the exchange until somebody said, hey, these loans are worthless. And then the whole thing imploded. But the reason, here's my whole point for all of this, just to give you some hope. High speed, high frequency trading programs are I read this recently because I try to keep up with it. They have stopped trading between each other using money. They will trade directly on bonds, stocks, goods, that sort of thing, commodities, and not use the money. And the reason is because it saves money, but also because as far as the computer is concerned, fiat currency that isn't backed by anything is worthless. So if you're wondering if this fiat currency is going to go away, the more And it's going to happen more and more. You're going to see more and more high-frequency trading until everybody's got one, because it's going to be the only way to survive. You're not going to need money anymore. Well, at least there won't be dollar bills anymore. It'll be just trading goods for goods. And the only way that's going to work is if you have a lot of computing power working, but it's a lot more efficient than what we got now. And the government won't be able to do what you fear, which is, I'm just going to put a little zero on the end of this, and suddenly we don't have a, budget shortfall anymore.
Well, actually, like, having said all of that, I reckon there still will be some form of currency in some form of places. Like, take Africa, for example. Like, there's the electrical infrastructure and all that kind of stuff just isn't there for, electronic transfers.
Oh, we're talking decades, possibly a century out before this is finalized, but it's going in that direction.
I mean, like, some of those places are like fucking hundreds of years behind, man. Like, some of these joints, they'll probably be thousands of years before they even get fucking Wi-Fi. That's how far out some of these places are. But yeah, like, take Sierra Leone, for example. Like, they'll still need some form of actual currency to deal with things like fishing villages and stuff like that. Like, when you get out into the cruck, like the real bush and stuff like that, that's where you're going to have your 1,000 years before you're going to get Wi-Fi. And to trade in town, you'll still need a form of currency, and everyone will barter.
Oh,
I'd say in places like that, you're right. It'd be eventual, but it's not going to be.
It's going to be a long, painful, jittery process. But I think it's more efficient. And if there's one thing I know about people being greedy, they go the most efficient route that makes the most money. That's why you're seeing these more and more it used to be that there was that if you had just a few, it would collapse the stock market. But the more and more and more high-frequency trading computers you have, the more stable it becomes, not worse. It was when there were only a few that we had problems because they would all overreact. But now we have enough that we don't have that, like, panic selling anymore, because there's another group of trading computers that goes, hey, wait a minute, you're panic selling? Ooh, that's a good bargain. And they start buying it up. And so it stabilizes. You're going to, I mean, like I said, right now it's only going to be, but as computers get cheaper and technology advances, there'll be a day where I think everybody will have one on their own cell phone. Unfortunately, we'll be a slave to it, but it'll take care of all your money transactions for you. It'll make money while you're sleeping. So, but I think that a lot of the problem with governments just putting a little zero on and just pumping out the money right now, money is kind of like your faith in a country. It's not really anything else. Like, if you don't believe in the country, the money goes to shit. Look at Venezuela. And actually, I have a lot of friends down in South Africa. I feel sorry for them, but it's the same thing happening over there. The more the government takes over stuff, the worse things get, unfortunately. And I hope that they're going to manage to avoid the whole, we're going to buy up all the land and redistribute it. But it's not looking like they're going to avoid that. And every other country that's done that, they've had a famine. So I actually have a friend or two down there. I would buy them a plane ticket if I thought they would take it and leave the country. But, well. I think we kind of exhausted this topic. Any other comments?
Oh, here's an interesting story I reckon you'd find interesting. About 50 k's up the road from where I'm at, about 3 years ago, a young boy by the name of William Tyrrell got kidnapped out the front of his foster parents' home. Things get fucking interesting from there. I'd be very interested if you'd have a look, see what information you could find on your end, and see if you come up with some of the same questions I do.
Well, if you send me a link, I'll look into it later.
I'll send you a link, but there's a fair amount of it. It's like 3 years worth of stuff, but it's not that big involved. But there are some really telling things about it where you'll sort of just go, hey, hang on a minute. I'll give you a clue. It's a New South Wales police off the books operation that's gone wrong.
Ooh. Yeah, whenever the police start trying to do something tricksy, it doesn't seem to work very well.
I know, and this has gone horribly, horribly wrong. And no one's cottoned onto it yet, too.
Well, I would like to see your material you got. I'm not sure if looking it up right now while we're on stream is a good idea, but yeah, no, I would like to look at it
later, because it's going to take you a while to get through that. So
Have I
like,
given
not-
you my email? Remind me to give it
yeah.
to you later, or if you've got it, just email it to me or a Dropbox thing, and I'll take a look at it. At any rate,
Yeah.
I figured we could end this on a downer.
Oh,
Final topic.
Yay.
The grooming of girls in Newcastle is not an issue of race, it's about misogyny. This from The Guardian.
what?
This is Rotherham all over again.
Yeah, let me just...
What?
This is an article from The Guardian. Now, I don't know if you're familiar, but there was a big scandal of Muslim men in the UK basically kidnapping, grooming, and creating, little girls into prostitutes. And just
In Rotherham.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was just basically nonstop rape, like thousands of cases. And not just in that one city, but it's a whole chain. And apparently it went on for almost 10 years because the local police were afraid of being called Islamophobic. Now, here, just let me tell you the first line of this article. Just listen.
God.
Just listen. What's worse, rape or racism?
Ah!
Okay.
You make me wake up the neighbors. Jesus.
Let me,
Mind you, some of the parents, some of these girls who went and took it upon themselves to go and retrieve their daughters from these situations actually end up getting arrested by the fucking cops. For
oh yeah, it was awful.
break enter and all this shit.
Wait, what? Repeat that, please.
This is a really fucked up situation. Yeah, it's like, so these girls, right, were getting lured away by these Pakistani, like they call them Asians, but they're like Pakistani Indians. And fucking some of the parents had cottoned onto this, and they were giving the girls drugs and alcohol and all this kind of stuff, and they'd have big bloody gangbangs with them and all this shit, using them like fuck toys, really. And there've been a few occasions where some of the parents have actually gone in forcibly to go and retrieve their daughters from these places where these cunts were hanging out, to find that the cops are there waiting at their house when they get home with a complaint of like break and enter and fucking malicious damage and all sorts of shit because they went and forcefully entered to go and get their daughter out of a shitty situation. And even when they explained to them what they were doing, the cops are like, stiff shit, you're in the wrong.
How old are these kids?
Oh,
Yeah, between 10 and 18, stuff like that.
Yeah, from
Yeah,
8 to
young-
18.
So they're.
Yeah,
They're real young.
Yeah, it was awful. But I'm going to save you from reading the actual article because I'm pretty sure it'll make Wendy explode. But I'm going to sum it up for you. This article basically says the problem isn't Muslims in the UK. The problem is men in the UK. This would have happened if it was... It was inevitable, according to this article, because all men are rapists. That's the article. And
What?
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. But this is, and it's The Guardian, which is a major newspaper in the UK. And I'm sitting there going, what the hell are you like? But it's, again, as we were talking about earlier, it's like this form of mimetic leukemia where the white blood cells, the defense mechanism of a society starts attacking itself, like mimetic AIDS. And the newspapers are supposed, and the police are supposed to be defending society, and instead they're attacking society because for some reason they've changed the definition of, hey, by the way, your kidney, it's bad, go kill it. That's basically what's happening. And I mean, it's finally starting to turn around, but the fact that it got this bad is crazy. And the UK, unfortunately, is way behind the United States. We're finally coming out of all of this mess. I have a feeling that 2018 is when it's going to finally break the back of all this madness. But I worry. That's kind of why I wish that Mr. Gurr had been on today, because I would love to hear his opinion on this. This is madness. But how can you? But it's all about blame shifting, because I have to go with the cynical route here, which is if you're a politician who got elected because you promised people free stuff, the way to keep getting reelected is to bring in more people who are dependent on free stuff. It's just stuffing the ballot box. It's what it all seems to be about, just stuffing the ballot box. And if a couple hundred children get raped, whatever. As long as I get reelected. And I hate to be that cynical and be that disgusted with politicians, but part of me is going along the lines of, why aren't you screaming from the rooftops that this is evil? But it's not.
Angela Merkel's about to learn that lesson.
Oh God, yes, I'm loving Angela Merkel. She has groups of people who just follow her around. It's like from Game of Thrones when what's her name's walking through the streets and everybody's just going, shame, shame. Then she's like, why is everybody getting on my case? It's because you promised to do something to get reelected, and when you got reelected, you turned your back on your own promises and lied to everybody.
Yep.
You know, this speaks to like what I talked about, where you got the liberal being like, oh, who am I mad at for the oppression? Do I get mad at the Muslims for raping, or am I upset that the girls were raped? I'm against rape culture, but not when an actual rape culture is in my fucking nation and fucking.
I'll be right back. There's a fucking Iroquois hanging around the house.
Okay. I have no idea. It must be Aussie slang for something.
It's got to be slang for something. I don't know.
Because it sounded like there was an Iroquois Indian Native American hanging around his house. I was like, hold on a sec. I've got an Iroquois Indian.
Get the shotgun.
If we hear some shots in the distance, we're like, yep, okay, got that Iroquois.
Listen carefully. Wait. Shh.
Shh. I don't think this mic's on.
I think it's okay.
I'm sorry. I have no idea what I was talking about. Who's talking?
We were talking about the UK rape thing, and then rape culture, and la 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 la.
Yeah, it's pathetic. But I will say this. Or
go ahead.
I'll let you go for. Or okay. If this were to happen in America, what you would see is, you talk about, all these people going out finding their daughters or their sisters or their mothers, and getting arrested. You would see in America groups of armed fathers and mothers finding these groups, and you would have a firefight bloodbath. Yeah.
I mean,
that's why this doesn't happen.
You missed the previous example, but I did talk about a friend of mine who was on death row in Texas, which was his sister got gang raped by a motorcycle gang, cliche enough, and they brought him to court. They got off on a technicality, and he went out and murdered them all.
Good.
And then he got put on death row. He fought it for a long time. Oddly enough, what took him out was not being the death chamber, but he died of cancer. So he managed to fight the death penalty long enough. But I mean, I'm not one to promote, vigilantism. But on the other hand, there's a part of me that's going, you know what? I don't think society's worse off.
But
agreed.
Not only that, letting this go, though, would also spark vigilante attacks towards people.
Who wants to hear me go dark again?
I will stop saying to hear that. I want to hear how you killed that Indian.
So,
yeah, you said, hold on, there's an Iroquois hanging out. We're like, an Iroquois Indian? You got an Iroquois Indian hanging around your place, man? That's pretty weird.
Iroquois, the helicopter. Fucking, the old Vietnam ones, they make a very distinctive sound, and the only time you hear one around here nowadays, if it's,
it's like a wop 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 like that.
So,
yep, I know it.
Yeah, and the only time you ever hear them around here nowadays is when they've got a Bambi bucket slung underneath them and they're fighting a bushfire. So I just had to go around and check to see how close the smoke was.
Gotcha.
All good.
Okay.
All good.
Glad you're not on fire.
Yeah.
Any rate, yeah. In America, we do have a lot more of the whole, culture where one lone man will go, you know what, for the good of the community. You don't have that in the UK. So you're right. In America, if that had happened, there would have been a bloodbath a lot sooner.
You would have militias going out and taking care of it.
Yeah.
To an extent.
I don't think that's necessarily good or bad. It's a thing. It's what would happen, but I don't think it would have been allowed to get that bad either. But then again, for all I know, it's happening right now. We don't know it.
I'll admit this. If that happened in my town, I'd be out there with my gun. My guns.
So,
in some cases, I don't believe the death penalty is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I actually have a pretty good example as far as this is concerned. So, there's a town in Minnesota called St. Cloud, okay? they ended up uncovering this huge, like, sex trafficking ring where they were literally doing exactly what you're talking about in the UK, where they were getting all these girls and doing all this shit and follow all fiddly-dee. And literally nothing fucking happened to the people that they caught. They only caught like 2 out of this whole ring, but nothing fucking happened to them because nobody gave 2 shits. So that shit does happen here and nobody cares. It's just as bad. We just don't hear about it as often because nobody gives 2 shits about it.
Yeah, I think I remember what you're talking about. I used to work up in that area when I was working for Anderson.
I'm sorry.
Services. No, I was a truck driver, so I wasn't there much. But yeah,
I know them.
Yeah, always topping shit. Always topping shit.
In those instances, though, like fucking, yeah, like when the police can't and won't, yeah, something should be done. If it's like an organisation, whether it's something that's fairly large, yeah, grab your local militia, grab all your ARs, and go have you some fun. But in some cases, you know, like say for instance the Bali bombings, where one or two individuals have caused so much pain and damage, not so much the death, but the pain and the psychological trauma that these victims have got to live with for the rest of their lives. Now, how do you pay that back to somebody who's come from a poor village, who's had a shit life, and had some monkey go and get in his ear and say, blow these people up, and then you'll live like a king in our prisons because basically you get free shelter and food and all this kind of stuff. And then they'll take you out and they'll shoot you through the heart, which is you do all this damage and you maybe suffer for 4 minutes, maybe. Doesn't that seem a bit quick?
I always view the death penalty not so much as a retribution, but more of taking down a rabid animal.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah,
there's that. But when you look at someone like Amrosi, who when he got the death penalty, he fucking laughed.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a couple of classics like that. What was that one guy? Oh, yeah, the one guy he was sentenced to being hanged, and on the day he like literally skipped up the steps and said, "I'll be in hell before you guys have breakfast." Put the noose on himself, laughed, and when they hung him, because he had done it himself, they didn't hook it up right. They dropped him, it actually tore his head off his shoulders. It was like what was his name? I remember it. It's like one of the worst hangings ever.
Wow.
One of the reasons why they don't do it anymore, actually, in America.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, he was like gleeful about it. He's like, "Oh, I'll be in hell before you guys get breakfast." Woohoo! I was like, "Dude, you got an interesting attitude. I'll say that."
It wasn't so much that Amrosi was laughing because it's sort of like, yeah, fuck you, haha, I've got death wishes. It's more like no, fuck you, you're giving me what I want. I'd rather that Amrosi got that fucking smile wiped off his face with several months of very, very rigorous torture, and then shoot the bastard. They can't say he's sorry first, basically.
Oh. Well, that's what I would say. If you don't want to go the death penalty route and you think that that's what they want, I'd give them life in prison with no parole.
And then make them fucking not want to live.
Yeah, and the inmates will take care of his life for us.
Don't just let the inmates have all the fun.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm okay with government sanctioned. I guess, how would I put this politically correct? Anesthesia for extreme criminals. But when I mean anesthesia, I mean death penalty, no matter what. But I don't know about. I don't know. I guess I don't feel so much a sense of revenge. A lot of people do, but I can understand it because you have a good point about the comfort, I guess, of the family, the comfort of those who just had to deal with such a maniac. I don't know.
Well, there are instances out there where it is a difference between, like, okay, this bloke killed someone, and you can go up and calmly talk to them and say, all right, you've done wrong, and they understand it and all this. And then you've got the other flip side of it where you're sort of like, yeah, just before they flick the switch on the electric chair, I just want to give the cunt one good one in the face, you know?
Mm-hmm.
No,
there are differences.
See, the problem is intellectually I have my position where it's like, you know, we have to, what if we're wrong, et cetera, et cetera. You know, it's easy to make something look like it isn't, and, you know, you should be cautious. And then there's a more visceral part of me that's going along the lines of, yeah, but in this one case, I'm kind of with you, and maybe everybody should have just been shot in the head. It's, you know, that's the problem. It's the difference between civilization and, you know,
a fatist mentality would dictate that that person was going to die on that day at that point in time, no matter what happened. He would have, if he wasn't sitting in the electric chair, he would have slipped in the shower and cracked his head on the porcelain.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I guess my point is that, like, I understand the whole thing. You shouldn't cause unnecessary suffering. And it's one of the reasons why the death penalty is such a hassle here in the United States, because trying to get around that, you know, unnecessary suffering thing. But part of me is along the lines of, why don't we get back to the good old fashioned, you know, death by firing squad and have a bunch of automatic weapons? Because when this guy gets hit with about 100 rounds, I'm pretty sure he's dead.
Yeah, there's rules to how much you can, like, there's overkill rules in that as well. But typically with the 10-man firing squad, there's only nine live rounds, so they can use the excuse that maybe I didn't have the live, maybe I had the blank. But that's where I was going back with Amrosi, because they ended up putting him in front of a firing squad in Indonesia. And it can take up to 4 minutes to bleed out when they shoot you through the heart. Even if you get hit with 9 rounds, it can straight through the heart. It'll still take you about 4 minutes to bleed out. Now, you might be in some fucked up pain, and sure, like, you know, after 2 minutes, you've lost enough blood to go into complete shock and you're not feeling anything anyways. But that's not enough in some cases, I don't think.
I don't think 4 minutes of pain is really that bad when you've murdered somebody.
That's where you're going to have
the
fairy Pico jumping up and down saying, but it's still 4 minutes.
So?
Yeah, I know. But part of me is along the lines, so 5 minutes, you know, that'd be my limit. No more than 5 minutes of agony, okay?
Honestly, me, I would just as happily have him be set up with a firing squad across from him, think it's coming from there, have the officer in charge walk up with a fucking 1911 and just blow his fucking brains out.
And kneecap the cunt. I'd go far worse. Like, I'm talking about your absolute fucking despot fuckwit terrorist cunts here, like the real nasty ones. I'd have them locked up in a room and I'd do shit like, you know, first couple of days you come in, just do the old, just beat the shit out of them, you know, make them black and blue for a bit. Then you know, a little bit later on, you might come in with something else like a cat of nine tails or something like that and start making nice little stripy patterns on their back. And you know, a few hours later, come in with a big bag of salt, and you fucking chuck the big bag of rock salt on them, and then fucking do the Macarena on their back, you know, rub that fucker right in. You can start to see how dark this is going to get.
Well,
you're definitely creative, sir. I will give you that, yes. You definitely have the inspiration.
Psychological torture, you get this great big fucking Doberman, like this real mean looking motherfucker of a Doberman, right? And you don't feed that little fucker, and you make him smell this cunt's shitty undies for a week so he knows the cunt's scent, and you get this little bastard real rabid, right? Frothing at the mouth, you know, growl, you know, fucking monstrous noises, and you have this cunt on a leash, right? And you put the dog just an inch in front of this bastard's face, so it's yapping and howling and fucking spitting in this cunt's face, and he's sitting there shitting bricks and shit. You do this for a little while, and after a while he'll think, oh, they're not really going to let the dog on me. That's when you let him have a little taste. You fucked up?
Ah, you're getting to the last of the beers, I see.
I mean,
getting to the last of the beers, I see.
That's where I guess I would feel like especially someone like that, I'd be like, am I any different than them? That's the only difference.
Well, I'm not. I don't care. I've already been over in someone else's backyard with a gun telling them what to fucking do. I'm just as bad as the rest of them. Fuck them. Like, you know, that's the whole point. The reason why people like me exist is so we can go and deal with cunts like them. And it's just that we're hamstrung by fucking fairy pinkos who don't want to pick up a gun.
That's the thing. Is like, I'm not someone who's not willing to pick up the gun and take care of the problem. I just don't know if I go that far. I don't know.
Sometimes you have to, man.
No, I see. The thing is I can see it from both angles. Like, if you send a message and you create the message, you will discourage people from doing it in the future. But I think the real problem is, though, the people who do things that vile I don't think they care about the discouraging, message. They don't believe it'll happen to them until it happens to them. And now you're moving from, does it have a purpose, or am I just getting satisfaction? Now, there's nothing wrong with getting satisfaction, but in my opinion, law enforcement is not about good or evil, right or wrong. It's about what is preserving society as a whole. And a lot of law enforcement we talked about today was not preserving society. So if it becomes, the drastic method is what you need if you don't have your own law enforcement protecting your society. That's what's going to happen. That, I guess, is the theme overall.
Well, now it is coming into the stage where you will have an element of paramilitary in America. Not so much police and SWAT, but actually another grade to deal with things that are coming.
I am afraid you are right. I don't think that's a good thing, but yeah,
we already
it's
do.
going to happen.
I've been a part of militias before we do.
Just as a side note, and Gwen probably knows this, I just want to put this out there. In Poland, they sell grenades over the counter. And the reason why is because they have armed voluntary patrols watching the borders. And they are allowed to buy grenades.
Can I go to Poland? Or do they not sell them to Americans? Probably California.
Well, if you were a native, they probably would sell it to you. But yeah, Poland is base.
Sorry.
Poland is totally based.
Just make friends with some Polish people and get them to buy them for you.
Exactly. There we go. That's what I do in Nevada.
That's how we get around fucking fireworks in New South Wales. Canberra is inside of New South Wales, yet you can't buy fireworks in New South Wales. You can in Canberra. And all you do is you drive down to Canberra, you find some bloke, say, right, run into that pawn shop, here's $50, go grab us a fun bag.
What?
That's what we do in Nevada for California. You can't buy a whole lot of shit for firearms in California. It's so strict. So anybody's like, oh, I'm making a trip to Reno or wherever in Nevada, we're like, okay, here's $200. Bring me back some cool stuff. So I feel you, man. I feel you.
Yeah. Well, it used to be a thing in Australia where in Queensland, you only need to pay $50 for a firearms license. So everyone in New South Wales used to go up to Queensland, just over the border, first cop shop they see. Licensing sergeant, rightio, where's my license? Don't do that anymore, unfortunately.
How is it for guns in Australia anyway? I've heard of bits and that. Have you guys?
No, you can get them. Like they've just made it ridiculously convoluted. Okay, to buy a firearm, you've got to go through the licensing process and all that kind of stuff, which costs hundreds of dollars. Then you have to, when you go to buy every firearm. I don't know whether this has actually changed, but last I checked, it was every firearm, even after you bought your first one. Got to do the 30 days bullshit, and then there's I think it was a $40 fee on top of every firearm that you purchased as the clearance check fee. Basically, the clearance check is they hold the gun for 30 days just in case you might be pissed off at the person you're buying the gun to shoot them with. That's a stupid rule.
We have something like that in California.
Yeah, and then you can actually pay for the actual firearm after that 30 days. And, you've got to, if you're on a sporting shooter's license or a club license or something like that, your valid excuse for having a firearm. If you're a sporting shooter, so you could be in a club with the Sporting Shooters Association or something like that, you've got to go to the range. I think it's 6 times a year or something like that. And my dad used to go down to the one at Maroubra, and he'd walk in, he'd sign the book, and then fuck off home. There's heaps of ways around it. Like you can go shooting on private property if the owner of the private property has firearms and stuff. You can go shooting unlicensed. You can get guns in the city in Sydney, like you can fucking getting weed off off your bloody local weed dealer. Guns in Australia are very, very prevalent. It's ridiculously hard to get legally, but if you want to get an illegal firearm, there's plenty out there. You can get them quite easily. And the cops and everybody out here are just sort of delusional with this whole, we got the gun buyback thing back in the 10 years ago, so there shouldn't be any guns on the streets yet. But there's like twice as many guns actually on the streets now, and gun crime's skyrocketed since. but they don't want to admit that part.
Yeah, that's exactly where California's going. I brought this up a few times too. Actually, when I ran for office and I was running against one of my more liberal opponents, brought this up. I brought it up against her as like, hey, you got to realize that with firearms, just like with drugs and anything else, the more you make it illegal, the harder you make it to legally obtain something that's a just massively owned and massively bought, a hot item, it's going to become illegally owned everywhere. You're going to just line the pockets of dealers and gangs.
And you're just going to perpetuate the whole unregistered, unknown firearm thing that's out there.
Yeah.
And then when you have a look at it, how many fucking firearms are there in America? It's going to be absolutely impossible to enforce any kind of firearms laws now.
Mm-hmm.
It would be very hard. I can definitely agree with that.
It'd be absolutely impossible.
I know, like, here in Minnesota, like, our gun laws aren't too bad. Like, I could literally walk into a gun shop and walk out with damn near anything in about 20 minutes, no problem. But a lot of the issues that, like, we don't really have a lot of gun violence here. We really don't, compared to, like, Chicago.
California.
Or, yeah, California. Yeah. No, we don't really have that problem. We have more of an issue right now with drugs than we do anything else. We have more of an issue with, like, the fear of, terrorists and shit, because we have such a high density population of Somalian Muslims right now. And it's...
By the way, quick question. Do you have problems with Spike over there?
With what?
Spike. It's the heroin combined with the new synthetic. It's like liquid brainwash over here. You take one hit of it and you'll kill your own children to get more. It's awful. I see the effects of it like constantly.
We did have this thing with the synthetic shit a couple of years ago, and they knocked it on the head twice. Because basically what had happened was they went and forced out the actual active ingredients in the stuff, and then they banned them. But there was a whole bunch of other ingredients, and I knew this was going to happen as soon as they did it too. They banned the ingredients, and they already had a second set of ingredients to go. And then they changed the act after that to say that any psychoactive substance that is not a food. And the reason why they had to say it was not a food is because, well, beer, alcohol, that's mind altering and all this kind of stuff. So that came into it as well. So they came out with the same sort of stuff, but in a tea form. So you make a tea out of it and drink it. And that got around the whole fucking, using it like a drug kind of thing, because it was edible. Other than, I think they've pretty much knocked it mostly on the head, because there was a big spate of fucking news reports about it a few years ago, and it's basically calmed down quite a bit now. It was epidemic around here too. Some cunt fucking committed suicide. The local pubs on the main street just hung themselves out the front of the pub. That shit. So,
ouch. Anyway, was just curious. Any other topics anybody wants to talk about?
Nothing off the top of my head.
Alrighty. Well, I mean, I don't have any problem with us continuing to hang out and talk afterwards, but this might be a good place to wrap up the stream at least. Anyway, so. Any rate, it's been real and it's been fun. I'm not sure if it's been real fun. You've been listening to Unthoth Neverborn, the abyss that slumbers. And this has been Eldritch Rants. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope all of you have had a pleasant evening. Goodbye. If anybody else wants to say goodbye. Boobies.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.